One, we are live.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, the Nunu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Lynn Nesbitt. I'm chairing the panel today. Joining me on the panel are Carrie Linklater and Cynthia Stevens, both via Zoom. Our assessor is Matthew Barocas, and our hearing secretary is Stephen Lunn. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note, you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing has concluded, you can leave the meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application. We will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I'll confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed, with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the Board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1 and 3 through 7 on our docket today. Mr. Lunn, please affirm the assessor's and the applicant's testimony.
Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Matthew Barocas.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Van Bergen, please state your full name.
Thank you. Wesley Van Bergen.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Sharpel, please state your full name.
Grayson Sharples.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. The first item on our docket today is 666 St. James Street. Can I confirm that the issue under appeal is assessed value only?
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. And before we begin, are there any preliminary issues?
None from MMP, thanks.
Okay. All right, then, Mr. Barocas, you can begin.
Okay, thank you. File number 22-490, roll number 07001570100666 St. James Street. We've got an assessed value of $76,076,000. It's an apartment with some commercial in it. It's got 23 million and change on the apartment and almost 3 million on the commercial. 15 stories, corner of St. James and Ness. Built in the 70s. We have an effective age on it to reflect some renovations that have taken place. 221 suites, 23 indoor parking, 129 outdoor parking, construction class C masonry barren walls. Page 2, no problem with the mailers. They've been good handing them in. No recent subject sale history either. Income value summary, you can see is breakdowns between mostly bachelor 1 and 2 bedroom units. Average monthly rent as per the model is $1,122.40, with our model expense rate, market vacancy rate, and model cap rate have a valuation coming in at 23 million and change for the apartment. Retail is all modeled as well. With our 7.9 cap rates coming in just shy of 3 million. Subject property, you can see on page 4, see in regards to the premises, the modeled rent per square foot is in the $15 to $17 range, pardon me, as per the model. On page 5, we've got rent comparables. You can see that third row from the bottom, $1,122.40 falls within the range of the comparables in the area. They're built around the same time, roughly, taking into account the renovations, of course. Comparables 3 and 4 are a bit older. Breakdown of these are mostly 1 and 2 bedroom units, even though they're number 2 and number 3 do have bachelor units as well. So we've got a larger gross floor area at 1,521 square feet per unit, but do keep in mind that also takes into account the commercial area. So that's not the size of the suites. So I always say this, I don't put much weight into this column, but just when you're reviewing it, the suites aren't that big. Just keep that in mind. Thank you. So comparable leases are found here. It seems to be a good range between the $13 and $19 range. Our leases are in the 15 to 17 range by model. So I didn't make any changes to that either. Page 7, this is our residential cap rate chart, which I have put together myself. Now, these aren't, I'm sure you've heard me talk about this already, but Wes hasn't, so I'll go into it. Basically, what these are is an example of actual sales that took place during the reference period. And what I did, it took 3 years to stabilize of the actuals leading up to the sale date. And with the sale price, I was able to calculate a cap rate. I don't believe, unless something has changed, we have a dispute on the cap rate on the residential. So I'm not going to dwell on it too long, but I will touch on it just in case he wants to ask some questions, of course. So you can see the caps range from 3.6 all the way up to 5.74. Where on the next page it will show, this is our chart that shows the model range on the second last group multifamily, the 20th and 80th percentiles from 4.8 to 5.6. So it's right in line with what I was able to find on a site specific basis. So that chart there shows using actual data, comparing it to what the model's finding, that they're in parallel with one another, which is good, which is what you would expect to see. So no changes to the cap. Municipal affixers follow on page 9. Page 10, that shows a aerial of the site. That's Ness and St. James Street. So there's tons of commercial around there. Everyone's from Winnipeg, they know what St. James is like, especially when you're trying to drive around there. Lots of commercial. So and there's on the bottom is a page of showing the commercial premises on the bottom. Then you have the apartment suites up top. And then on top, it looks like they got a pool up there on the roof. And then there's some, starting on page 12, pictures of the units. You can see that the units have been renovated. That's not original to, what was the original date here? 1970. That's not 1970 in there. And hence the effective age on the property. We got the mailer that follows on page 14 and 15. That's my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barocas. Mr. Van Bruggen or Mr. Sharples, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple questions, please. If we could turn to page 5. When you get a moment.
I'm ready.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So would you agree that when looking at rents, typically bachelor units are going to generate a lower rent than 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms? Would that be a fair statement to make?
Yes, definitely.
And then comparing the subject property to the other 4 comparables you brought forward, you would agree that the subject property has a much higher proportion of bachelor units versus other suites, correct?
Yes, I do.
So realistically, if we're taking a look at the average monthly rent, we could probably expect the average monthly rent to be lower in the subject property compared to what we would be expecting from the other properties, all things considered.
Not all things considered. If that was the only difference between them, then definitely I would be in agreement with you. But you can see from the pictures at the end, the units have been renovated, and with the 1985 effective age, which is the second highest compared to the other properties. So we're in the what looks to be the middle of the distribution here. So I think we're okay with the rents.
Do you know if the other properties have been updated and renovated?
I haven't inspected them. I don't have an indication here that they have, though.
Okay. All right. And then you'd already covered this, but just to confirm, when we talked about the gross floor area, you had mentioned that included the retail space, correct?
Yeah. So I don't want the panel thinking that the suites are so much bigger in this building than purpose.
Fair enough. Excellent. I think that concludes my questions, unless there are any questions from you, Grayson.
I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. Linklater, do you have any questions?
Yes, just a couple. Just want to confirm everything is model driven, correct, Mr. Baracus?
Yes.
Cap rate, etc.
100% model.
Okay, and you did not inspect the property?
No, I did not. I haven't inspected any of the properties on the docket today.
Okay, and I thank you for that. Do you know when it was last inspected?
I'm pulling up the notes right now. As we speak, that's why I'm not looking at the camera. Let's try and make this more efficient. Percent change. Business moved. I don't see anything lately in regards to an inspection on it. No, I don't know when the last time it was inspected.
Okay. And do you know when the renovation took place?
No, I do not. But judging by the photos, I would say within the past, 5 years or so.
Do you have a dollar amount on the permit? Or does the permit give any specific information?
I mean, a lot of not every time they renovate a unit, they take out the permit. So, but I don't have that in my evidence, no.
Okay. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Ms. Stevens, do you have any questions?
Mr. Baracus, you may have said this and I may have missed it. Do you have an average of your rent on the retail?
Oh, on the retail, yeah. Let me pull up my work up again. So an average of the rent. So we would be looking at page 4. So, I mean, just.
Okay, if you don't actually have it, I can. Don't worry about working it out while we're doing the question. I can see the numbers. I just wondered if you had an average.
I don't have an average, no.
Okay, all right. That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, so I have no additional questions. So Mr. Sharples, Mr. Van Bruggen, please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. If the board can turn with me to page 3, we'll get started. And just let me know when you're there.
Yeah, go ahead.
Excellent. So the subject property is a 214 suite multi-residential property. In conversations with the owner, we determined there's 14,674 square feet of retail space on the bottom. The property has been assessed using the income approach to value. Building was constructed in 1970 and sits on a 1.2 acre land parcel. As mentioned, the property has been assessed at a value of $26,076,000. M&P is requesting a combined value of $24,812,000. As we go through, we'll kind of show a breakdown in terms of what we're attributing to the residential and what the request is for the retail, just for the board's reference there. Page 4, we have the current assessment for that particular property. So this is the assessment parameters used by the City of Winnipeg when determining the value of that site. If the board will turn with me to page 6, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
So on page 6, we have our request. So here there's a couple differences when we are looking at this property compared to how the city has assessed the property. The first is for the potential income for both the residential and the retail components. M&P is looking at those, and it's our opinion that that an appropriate income would be lower. The next would be the vacancy rate for both. Again, when we take a look at that, the retail has been assessed with a vacancy rate of 6%. It's M&P's position that vacancy rate should be 8.6%. And then the multifamily component has been assessed with a vacancy rate of 3.2%. M&P is requesting a rate of 5.73%. Then we come to then I believe when it comes to the expense ratio, that's fairly similar between M&P as well as the city for the multifamily component. And then finally, when it comes to the capitalization rate, we're asking a 8.6% capitalization rate for the retail component. For the multifamily component, that 5.45% seems reasonable. Through these, we're requesting a value of $2,113,124 for the residential component, and for the retail component. I apologize. For the residential component, we're requesting a value of $22,699,211. So just for the board's reference there, we're probably just in terms of looking, it's about $800,000 reduction for the multifamily or for the retail component, and about $400,000 for the multifamily component, give or take. If the board turns with me to page 8, we have a map provided by the City of Winnipeg just showing the location of where that property is. So again, it's mentioned that it's along St. James on the corner of St. James and Ness Ave there. Page 9, we have some exterior photos of the subject property, as well as moving down to page 10, we have some exterior photos of the retail component of that property. So you can see there that they do have that retail podium along the bottom there. If the board turns with me to page 11, so on page 11, we'll get started. So this is in terms of the valuation for the retail space. So the retail space has been assessed with a combined rent or with a blended rental rate of $16.24 per square foot and a vacancy rate of 6%. M&P has taken a look at the property. For the most part, this property is generating gross rents. So what that means is that they are not, so the tenants are not paying the property taxes, common area costs, any of those factors. It's what they're paying is just one rental rate that includes everything. So basically the landlord is on the hook for any expenses that are associated with that property. So here we provided a table showing each of the tenants that are within the building, their suite number, as well as the area size that they're occupying, and the annual rental rate. We've also then, to determine what a net rental rate would be, we've subtracted the expenses for each one of these units. So the expenses applied to retail properties is $7 by the City of Winnipeg. When we take a look at the valuation, it makes sense between the property taxes, the hydro, your various utilities, any repair and maintenance. That $7 seem to be reasonable. So to calculate an adjusted, so the adjusted rental rate is calculated by using the rental rate, subtracting the expenses to arrive at the adjusted rental rate. Based on that, we can see that leasing within the property on a net basis ranges from about $10.99 up to $20.50. And when we take a look at that, and after adjusting, we get to a value, a total adjusted rental income of $214,941 for this property. So it's just important to note that when we take a look at the income and expense statement, the information recorded on the income and expense statement is the gross rents and does not adjust to account for the expenses adjust to account for expenses. So this is where we're getting a requested value of $214,941. Just for the board's reference, if we take a look at that on a per square foot basis, it's about $14.64 per square foot is what that would equate to. The next component is the vacancy rate. So the subject, if the board turns with me to page 12, so this is for the retail component. So the subject property has been assessed with a vacancy rate of 6%. However, the vacancy rate in St. James for strip malls over the last 9 years has been trending up. So here we provided information. This is coming from the Johnson report. We can see that when we take a look at December retail vacancy rates for St. James, that it started, in 2011, we're at 1.3%. And over the last 9 years, we've been trending up. 2019, we were at 10.3%, 2020, 8.6%, which is kind of right along the lines of what we've seen from 16 onwards. So kind of 8.3 to 10.3 is kind of what we've seen from 16 onwards. We did look the same thing as the strip centers as well. We see the same trend as in the strip centers, trending up from 2011 all the way to 2020. Again, we're kind of seeing those vacancy rates trending up, ranging from 5.6 in 2011 up to 8.5 in 2020. And again, we can see that over the last 3 years or 4, that vacancy rate in St. James has been higher quite a bit than what we've seen in the past. So again, when we take a look at this based on what we see typical leasing or the typical vacancy for St. James retail area, we feel that assessed vacancy of 6% is a little bit low. Additionally, when we consider the property, there was a recent announcement that River City Sports will be closing. They occupy about 3,000 square feet within the property. They have not closed as of late. They have not closed yet. They have announced that they will be closing due to various financial challenges that they've had. That vacancy is going to result in about a 20% vacancy for the property. So 3,000 square feet across the 14,000 square foot of space will result in about 20% vacancy. So again, this is something that is going to happen. It's just a matter of timing, and given the fact that we're going to see that vacancy, that 8.6% vacancy for St. James seems reasonable to apply to the property. Page 13, we have the capitalization rate for the retail component. So what we've done is we've looked at a variety of retail properties within the area, so kind of Portage, Albany area. So trying to come up with properties that are located in a similar location. We can see that these properties range in size from smaller, from just a little over 1,000 square feet to 12,000 square feet. These sales have occurred between 2018 and 2020. And the sale prices you can see there range from about a high of $1.125 million to a low of $240,000. To determine what an appropriate capitalization rate would be for these properties, unfortunately, we don't actually have the performance of these properties as much as we'd love to have it. So to try to determine what a typical rental rate would be, or typical capitalization rate would be for these properties, what we've done is we've applied a rental rate that we feel would be reasonable. So in the area, we feel that kind of a rental rate between 14 to 15 a square foot would not be unreasonable for this particular property. For these properties, we've applied a vacancy rate of 8.6%, much as what we've requested, same as what we requested for the subject property. Non-recoverables of 3%, expenses of $7 to calculate our net operating income for each one of these properties. Dividing that calculated net operating income by the sale price, we get our calculated capitalization rates. You can see here that they range from a low of 7.26% to a high of 10.88%. Taking an average of these capitalization rates, we end up with an average of 8.6%. So again, we are using an average mainly because we do have a number of properties here that we're looking at, and what we find is that an average, as soon as we start taking a look at a number of properties, kind of gets rid of most of the noise and would be we feel would be a reasonable reflection of a capitalization rate that could be expected for this property. Page 14, we have just a map showing the location of those sales that we've used within the study. So the pin in the middle of the page, so this would be the red pin, is 666 St. James. So you can see that we've chosen sales as close as we can, mostly along Portage, as well as that property along Albany there. That's the yellow pin. So trying to be fairly close in proximity to the subject property when we're trying to determine, when we're identifying sales and trying to determine a reasonable capitalization rate. Page 15, if the board will turn to. So here we can see the sales on a per square foot basis. So again, what we've done is we've taken a look at these sales, we've looked at the building area, and we've calculated sales on a per square foot basis. So again, we're using the income approach to determine the value of the property. However, it is useful to take a look. But again, we're making some assumptions in terms of what a reasonable capitalization rate would be. However, if we just look at these properties on a per square foot basis, we can see the subject property has been assessed at a rate of $182 a square foot. Sales that we're looking at range in value from a low of $93 to a high of $211 a square foot, with an average of $149.67. So again, when we take a look at that, we feel that that would be supportive, suggesting that the assessment for the property is a little high compared to what we're seeing for sales within the area. And again, on page 16, we've just provided a map. Same sales that we've used for the capitalization rate that we've used and taken a look at to determine what an appropriate value for that retail component would be. If the board turns with me to page 17. On page 17, we have this information about the multifamily space. So again, the property has been assessed with rental revenue of $2,882,323, a vacancy rate of 3.2%, and an expense ratio of 54.92%. In looking at the rental revenue, we can see here we've got information from 2017, 2018, and 2020. Unfortunately, we didn't get the 2019 information. Here we can see that the rental revenue for that property, if we take a look at the total rental revenue, is kind of ranges between $2.692 million to $2.87 million. We haven't actually gotten to that rental revenue that had been assessed. Additionally, when we take a look at the vacancy rate for the property, vacancy rate from the property ranges from 5.77% all the way up to 10.06% in 2018. For 2020, we're at 5.73%. So once we subtract the vacancy from the total revenue, we end up in effective gross income. The effective gross income ranges from $2.543 million all the way to $2.712 million. So based on this information, this is M&P is using that value of the $2,712,987 in the effective gross income for the property when making our request. When it comes to the expense ratio, if the board will turn with me to page 18, we took a look at that expense ratio, looking at the expenses for the property, taking a look at how they've changed from 17, 18, and 20. Based on that, we feel that the applied expense ratio of 54.4, the applied expense ratio for the property at that 54% looked reasonable. We've used the actual expenses in the property and stabilized over the last from 2017, 2018, and 2020 to arrive at an expense ratio of 54.4%. So very similar to what the city's used. Page 19, we have our valuation for the property. Again, this is what we've seen previously. Here you can see that we've used the revenue for the potential income for the property of $2,870,999. the vacancy of 5.73% to arrive at an effective gross income of $2,712,987. We've applied the expenses, the stabilized expenses for the property, which equates to 54.4%. That expense allowance is $1,475,880. To calculate a net operating income of $1,237,107. Applying the capitalization rate of 5.45%, arriving at our capitalized value for the retail or for the residential component of $22,699,211. For the retail space, using the leasable area of $14,674 or 74 square feet, the potential income of $214,941 based on the actual performance of the property. The 8.6% vacancy allowance to arrive at an effective gross income of $1,196,456. Applying that 8.6% capitalization rate, that takes us to a capitalized value of $2,113,124 for the retail space. Starting on page 22, continuing on until page 72, we have the income and expense mailer for the property, which provides the income and expense form for that particular property for 2020, as well as the rent roll for that property that you can find starting on page 33, continuing on to page 72. If the board will turn with me to page 69, please. And just let me know when you're there.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So the commercial rent roll has been included on the residential rent roll. They're just combined. So what the board can find starting on page 69, if you look in the middle of the page, you'll see suite C112. So this is the start of the commercial spaces within the property. Starting on with suite C106, you can see there that is identified as a gross rent. And you can see the rental rate there. So that's the monthly rental rate of $1,705 per month. You can see that there is no additional cost associated with utilities or common area, property tax, anything that you would expect for a typical net rent or net lease. So again, this just highlights the fact that the rental rates that the rental revenue they're achieving for the retail space is gross. We can see C118, again, gross rent. C130, so this is Popeye's Fitness Shop. We can identify this as a gross rent and month-by-month lease. C142 on the bottom of page 69, again identifying gross rent. And then continuing on to page 70, CKLY Fashion Inc. So this is C166. So this is a semi-gross, so the tenant pays the hydro. For our calculations for this, we only subtracted $3.50 for the expenses, not the full $7, because recognizing that there is some recovery for the hydro. We can see continuing on C186 gross rent, C192 gross rent, and then some vacant spaces in page 71. So again, this is just highlighting the fact that when we take a look at the actual rental revenues for the property, for the retail space, these are all gross rents that they're achieving. So there is no recoveries for any of the operating costs from the tenants. That is just slippage or costs that the owner has to incur. Page 74, if the board will turn with me to starting on page 75. So here we have an excerpt from the Johnson report. So this is just showing the December retail vacancy rates by district. Here we can see when we take a look down at St. James. So these are just general retail. We can see that 8.6% on St. James. And if we continue on to page 76, this is by strip center. Again, same idea. If we take a look at St. James, which is kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the bottom, we can see that 8.5%. So again, supporting that 6% vacancy rate, maybe a little bit low for that area and for the property. Starting on page 77, we have pictures of the comparable sales that we've utilized for both the capitalization rate as well as the just looking on a per square foot basis. We've showed 1843 Portage Avenue on page 77. Page 78, we have 894 Portage Avenue. Page 79, 268 Albany. Page 80, we have 633 Portage Ave. Page 81, so this is the larger property at 12,000 square feet. We have 1375 Portage Ave. Page 82, we have 633 Portage Ave. Page 83, we have 1821 Portage Ave. And then finally on page 84, we have 1333 Portage Ave. So you can see that each one of these are a retail property located along Portage Ave. So we've highlighted the importance more so in terms of location of these properties, as well as use of the properties when we're trying to determine what would be a reasonable comparable to use for both the capitalization rates as well as on a per square foot basis to look at the value. Page 87, starting at page 87, we have the supporting documentation for those sales. So again, we've used the Johnson report. So you can see the first sale there is 268 Albany. That sold for $159 a square foot. Then we can see 1843 Portage Ave, 633 Portage Ave, and 894 Portage Ave. These properties are selling for values ranging from 111 to 174 a square foot. Page 89, we have 1375 Portage Ave and 892 to 894 Portage Ave, selling for $93 to $2 a square foot, $211 a square foot. And then finally, on page 91, we have the remaining sales at 1821 Portage Ave, selling at $168 a square foot. So just providing that supporting documentation for the board there in case there were any questions. Finally, starting on page 95, continuing on page 117, this is the information provided by the City of Winnipeg for their 2023 general assessment information. And if the board will turn with me to page, give me one moment here. Sorry, I apologize. The board will turn with me to page 110. And just let me know when you're there.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So if you look 10 down, you can see retail, RET-retail. This is for the non-recoverable operating expenses. You can see the City of Winnipeg is applying a $7 rent for those operating expenses. That's the same rent. That's the same amount that we've used when trying to calculate what a typical net rent for this space would be. So by subtracting that from the gross rent. So just to give the board the reference there of where we've got that information. With that concludes my presentation, and I welcome any questions from the board or from the assessor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Van Bruggen. Mr. Brokus, do you have any questions, please?
Yeah, just a couple. If we can go to page 13, please.
Yes.
And so this is the your cap rate chart, and just to confirm, the $15 and $14 and $10, these are estimations, not actuals?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. And then if we go to page 77, and we start looking at these pictures here. Do any of these commercial sales, do any of them have parking on the property right in front?
No, I believe they are all fronting on Portage Ave. Let me just double check. No, I believe parking, if it is available, would be located behind the building in those situations.
Okay. In your opinion, would you say that parking right in front, availability of parking right in front would be beneficial in an investor's mind from a cap rate perspective in terms of being an attractive attribute?
I don't know. I mean, To be honest, I'm not sure. I think when it comes to, I think available parking is certainly an important consideration when it comes to rents that the property is achieving. I think an investor, when it comes to capitalization rates, going to be more concerned about the rents and the vacancies the property is going to have. So, I mean, in my mind, when we're taking a look at it, I don't necessarily think there's going to be much of a difference in terms of rental rates that these properties would be able to achieve. They're located, they're all kind of similar in nature. They're located within a similar area. I think those are going to be more important factors when determining what rental rates they can achieve and the vacancy rates the properties are going to experience over the long term. But in terms of your question about location of parking, unfortunately, I don't know.
Okay. And then just back to the beginning. We can go to page 8, please. And just the general location of this property. This property is, I know you're not from Winnipeg, but you're familiar that it's across St. James from the Polo Park Mall, the biggest mall in the city?
Yes. Yeah. No, I am for sure aware of that. I mean, I think one of the considerations when you look at the site would be, the site, access to the site is, can be a little challenging at times, as well as when we consider the location that we're located right across from Polo Park. I mean, again, we're taking a look and we see the actual performance of this property. The property is generating rents that are gross rents and quite a bit below what they've been assessed at. We're seeing an average about $14.64 what the actual gross net rents would be for this particular property. So, even understanding the location of the site, given the fact that it is could be seen as advantageous in some regards, I think ultimately when we take a look at the performance of the property, we can certainly see that's not bearing out in terms of the rents they can generate.
Okay. But you wouldn't make a downward, I think that's a fair comment. But you wouldn't make a downward adjustment in cap compared to your comparables that aren't across from Polo Park?
Again, I think anyone if we're going to look at it that way, anyone's buying this is not necessarily buying just retail. You're buying an apartment building too. So, I mean, this would sell as one. Whether what the outcome of that would be is kind of difficult. That's why we're just looking at it split into two. Would retail located in close proximity to Polo Park or right across from Polo Park sell for a lower cap? Perhaps, but we can also see that we've got like a number of the comparable properties are located along Portage Ave, so a fairly strong retail presence along Portage Ave. Same idea. I don't know if it would be that much of a difference, and we can still see that those properties are selling for quite a bit lower on a per square foot basis. So,
okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brokus. Ms. Linklater, do you have any questions?
My questions have been asked and answered. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Stevens?
Yes, mine as well. I had similar questions as the assessor and they've been answered, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. I had a question about your vacancy rate used in your retail. Mm-hmm. You're using 8.6 and I see where you get that from. You've explained that. And it's for St. James. Do you believe, or is there evidence, I'm not sure, that a property in this location in St. James right across from Polo Park would have the same vacancy as a property further west out St. James, not close to Polo Park? Could you, maybe explain that?
Yeah, no, I think
is all of St. James the same?
It is all homogeneous. No, that's a good question. That's an absolutely good question. I think when it comes to, and you're right, there's probably going to be more and less desirable pockets of space within the area. I think when we're taking a look at vacancy rate, we're certainly painting with a very broad brush when we're trying to determine what that vacancy rate would be. So you're absolutely correct in that position. I mean, we can I think looking at this property on a go-forward basis, we know that River City Sports is going to close. They very publicly have announced that. We know it's just a matter of time until that's done. So, and that's going to result in 20,000 square feet of space, or 20% of space that's going to be opening up in this building. So 3,000 square feet of space. So yeah, when they're going to have to compete within the market to get a new tenant for that building, for that space. Are they going to have a bit of an advantage? Probably, yeah. It's probably going to be looked at a little more favorably. But I mean, we still have to keep in mind that it's not like this property is generating incredibly high rents. They're still, they're signing gross rents within the building. There are some challenges in terms of accessing the site that you would see. So I do think that an adjustment would be warranted to account for some of those factors when we're looking at the property.
Okay, thank you. I have another question about your leasable square feet.
Mm-hmm.
I noted that it's different from that reported by the assessor. Could you explain that?
Yeah. So when we talked to the owner, one of the things they had mentioned was they had a couple spaces that they've since converted into other uses. So there's one retail space that had been vacant for a number of years, and then they are using now for their laundry facility. Laundry facilities. There's another one that had been vacant, and they're using it as part of their fitness facilities. So those spaces have now been changed in terms of use and the space way they're being utilized. So that's why we're looking at a smaller area in terms of retail space for what's available.
And when did that take place?
Oh boy. Unfortunately, I don't have. I was asking about the space types. Unfortunately, I don't have a specific date of when they changed those spaces over. I can only tell you that's.
And can I just ask Mr. Barocas, were you aware of that change in use? I'm assuming that's for the now being used for the apartment piece, right?
Correct.
No, we'll have to, if you could send the change in an email to us, and then we can review that and make changes at work.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, then that's all the questions I have as well. Mr. Barocas, is there a desire for summation?
Just in regards to my stuff, I mean, I stuck with the modeled works. I know the applicant did some cap rate review for the commercial. That was based on estimated rents and properties that were across from Polo Park. That's probably our main point of dispute, other than rental income. So I think we're pretty close, but ultimately just stayed with the model. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And
Mr. Van Bruggen?
Madam Chair, sorry, I should have mentioned this earlier. We did have rebuttal on this. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry,
then yes, we should have. Deal with that then.
I apologize.
Well, for my panel members, that should be in your SharePoint. You might have to refresh. It's closer to the bottom. It's labeled file number and then applicant rebuttal. So it's file number 22490. And to Mr. Barocas, I just sent it to you by email about a minute ago. So just let me know when you have that.
Sorry, I do apologize about that to everyone. We should have been clear up front.
That's okay. No, thank you. We have it now. So, is this the right one?
It's
666 St. James. Is that what it's labeled?
It should be labeled.
Yep, got it.
Got it? Okay.
Okay.
It should be a 10-page document, if that's what everyone has. Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Excellent. So this is just in rebuttal to some of the rents brought forward by the assessors on page 6 of their brief. So as we take a look at some of these spaces, it would be our contention that some of these spaces are not typical retail. So we look at page. So if the board will turn with me to page 2 of that submission, just let me know when you're there.
Yep, go ahead.
So we have the first one is 1861 Portage Avenue. So this would be the last comparable that was brought forward by the assessor at a rate of with a rent of $19.95. So we can see here that this is for a chiropractic center. It'd be our position that typically medical clinics, which would include chiropractic centers, physiotherapy locations, tend to rent at higher rental rates compared to typical retail spaces. So we would argue that's probably not a great rent comparable. The next page we have 1855A Portage Avenue. So this is the third. This is the third one up from the bottom of the page on page 6 of the leases. So the rent is $17 in this property. So this is a restaurant space leased to Chicken Delight. Again, it would be our position that restaurants tend to rent at a higher rental rate per square foot compared to what we would see for typical retail space. So we provided page 3. That information is on page 3 and 4. As well as page 5, just showing some interior photos of that. So there's a kitchen in there as well as some other factors. Page 6, we have 1853 Portage Ave. So this is another restaurant space leased to Fruit de la Vive. Again, this is a coffee smoothie shop. Again, when we take a look at this, this would be more aligned with restaurant space. If you move down to page 7, you can see there's kind of a restaurant, kitchen tucked away in the back there. Again, taking a look at how this would compare to typical retail space would be our position. This would be a great comparable. And then finally, if the board turns with me to page 8, we have 1795 Portage Ave. So this is the first on the list of leases brought forward. So this is a convenience store, a 7-Eleven. And when you look through, you can see that there's various coolers that are on the site, are on site, as well as some other factors, which we feel that would make this not a typical lease and maybe not appropriate or not comparable to use when looking at a property. So just some additional information there when looking at the leases brought forward by the assessment department.
Thank you very much. Mr. Brokus, do you have any questions?
Yes. So I appreciate you looking into these ones. You looked into all the rest of them too. I understand there's 10 leases. Okay. Yeah. And so you would say that those were more typical retail? Yeah.
So when we took a look at them, they lined up. They were more standard retail. I think some were, some had like a nail hair salon like we have in our subject property. So similar to what we would be seeing.
Okay. And so those ones weren't a problem. So just when I'm looking at my table on page 5, I guess the difficulty I have is like all the rental rates are highly similar, despite the coolers and what the use is for these particular spaces. So does that not indicate that the rates are the same regardless of usage?
So it depends on how you look at it. So when we take a look, you can see that 1861 Portage Ave, so this is the chiropractic clinic, is the highest at $19.95, which would kind of be indicative of what we'd see for medical space within Winnipeg. 1855 as well, 1855 and 1853. 1855A and 1853 are both restaurants, so that's at $17 and $15.50. So again, we're on the higher end of the range there. Again, suggesting that we suggest that retail restaurants typically do rent for a slightly higher rental rate than what we'd see for CRU spaces, and then the convenience store at $15.50. So if we look at the leases that are left, they're kind of like in the $13 range, with one lease at $16. So, I admit, there's certainly, they are all kind of close, but when we take a look at those restaurants in that chiropractic space, they are all on the higher end of the range, what we'd see.
Okay, fair enough. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Linklater, do you have any questions on the rebuttal evidence?
I have no questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Stevens?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have no questions. So, Mr. Brokus, do you have rebuttal evidence?
I do not know.
Okay, then. Thank you. Mr. Brokus, would you like to re-summarize?
Sorry about that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, just in regards to the cap rate on the commercial, mainly it's across the street from Polo Park Mall. People drive down St. James to shop. Those of us who have know that it's like the shopping center of the West End. It would definitely have much greater exposure than people commuting down Portage. When you go down St. James, you go down St. James to shop. So we feel that the rents are, again, captured by the rents. the comparables, but the investor would definitely look at its location as advantageous. So we feel the 7.9 cap is appropriate.
Thank you very much. Okay, that concludes item number 1. So thank you, Mr. Van Bruggen and Mr. Sharples.
Thank you very much for everyone's time. You have a great day. Take care.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, we're going to juggle the agenda a little bit and deal with item number 7 first.
Mr. Story, that would be.
So we'll bring in Mr. Story. Yeah.
That was for 355 Kennedy, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Let me just get there also.
I'll affirm you, Mr. Story, very
Yes.
quickly. If you stand, please state your full name.
Jared Story.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You may be seated.
Hello, Mr. Story.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, Mr. Barocas, when you're ready, you can begin, please.
Okay, thank you. File number 22-1115, roll number 13053019000, 355 Kennedy Street, Manitoba Housing, residential apartment, a little bit of commercial. Property description on the bottom 50% of the page. The applicant and I actually came to an agreement at the time on this one. I was going to sign at 15-1, but ran out of time. So I'll do a verbal recommendation.
Okay, go ahead.
To 10,954,000 on the 20T grantable portion. And then there's no change to the exempt portion.
So that was 10,054,000.
10,954,000.
954. And that's the residential to grantable.
Yes.
Okay, and the class 60E was 655,000.
Yeah, no change to that one.
Okay. And the total value therefore is?
Should I type it in at 11,609,000?
Mr. Story, do you accept the recommendation presented?
We accept the quantum, yes, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Linklater, do you have any questions?
Yes, my Mr. Baracus froze on my screen, so I didn't catch the numbers.
Mr. Baracus, could you just repeat them, please?
Yeah, not a problem. So for the residential portion, it's 10,954,000.
Okay.
And then no change to the exempt portion at 655,000. Generates a total assessment of 11,609,000.
And I thank you.
Ms. Stevens, do you have any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, and before we finish off, can I just ask on what resulted, like what changes did you make to arrive at the revised assessment?
We made an adjustment to the cap rate.
Okay, thank you. On the residential, obviously on the residential side. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. That concludes item number 7. Thank you, Mr. Story. Does anybody need a quick break before we start with Mr. DuPont?
Yeah, possible. I'd like to get a 5-minute break, please.
Okay, Mr. DuPont, we'll just take a 5-minute break before we resume again, okay?
Okay, good, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
2, 1, we are live.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting back to order. Hello, Mr. DuPont.
Hello.
So before we begin, we'll ask Mr. Lund to affirm your testimony.
Mr. Dupont, please state your full name.
Henry DuPont.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give us is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to deal with item number 3 on our agenda, 3059 Portage Avenue. So Mr. Barocas, when you're ready, please.
Thank you. File number 22-1975, roll number 07438250100, 3059 Portage Avenue. We've got two classifications here under appeal. We've got the commercial, which I don't believe is disputed unless anything's changed. And we also have the residential component. Property description is at the bottom third of the page, 1974. We've got a small effective age applied to it. 140 suites, 152 outdoor parking spots, reinforced concrete. Page 2 shows it hanging in the mailers, no problems. Income value summary on page 3, 1 bachelor. It's mostly 1 and 2 bedrooms for 140 units. Modeled valuation, modeled rent at 1,104. And we have our workup here. Still a model with a 5.45 cap, which just glancing ahead, we agree on actually. So differences in net operating income. Subject property or rents for the retail and commercial are shown here on page 4, rather than a retail and apartment. Premise, page 5, shows the rent comparables on this property. In the similar area out west, you can see there's a range of effective year built from 1970 to 2000. I think ultimately our effective gross income is highly similar, actually a little bit lower than the applicant. So there's some exchange. Again, it's not really going to be too much of a contention, I don't anticipate. So where the model rent falls is slightly below the range of comparables here. We can touch on it more if we get questioned on it, but don't want to take too much time on that. Comparable leases, page 6, showing the rents. So again, I don't believe that's in dispute either, so I'm not going to elaborate on that. Cap rate, I actually agree. And I know just from doing this a few times, I've gone through my cap rate scale a few times, so I'll abbreviate it. These are just the sales. Subject sale, sales of properties, and I use the 3-year expenses. Expenses with the known sale price to calculate a cap rate goes from 3.6 to 5.75, which on page 8, you can see on the column multifamily is, again, the 20th, 80th percentile. It's in line with that. So that's good. That's what we expect. And then we have our workup on our mailer on page 10 and 11. Doing some additional expenses. I know they didn't include management. I looked through their general expenses on page 10. I know that does make sense. I'm not sure why the other ones weren't accounted for. I don't know if those are globally as a company, but I know they were missing management, so that would need to be accounted for. Then we got pictures to round the brief out, pages 12 to 15. Show some pictures, first pictures from the website, second pictures from Google Street View. You can see the commercial up front. And then you can see that the inside looks like it's been refreshed, in my opinion, where the effective ages come from. So the model evaluation, that's my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barocas. Mr. DuPont, do you have any questions?
No questions today.
Thank you. Ms. Linklater, do you have any questions?
I also have no questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Stevens?
I have no questions either. Thank you.
Okay then. Mr. DuPont, then on to your presentation, please.
Yes, so if you go to my brief, you'll see the photos, first page, etc. I think we should just go to the spreadsheet with the evaluation, which is my page. I have to find it. Yeah, so we don't dispute cap rate. So we're at page 14. So the spreadsheet, the averages are too squish on 3 there, but we don't rely on the averages. So I assume that the board's okay with not knowing that. Line 13, we have a higher EGI than the assessor, not by much, but 25,000 or so. Line 3, the rents are at 1056 per suite, which is relatively high. They have mostly 1 bedrooms, 87 one bedrooms, 52 two. So they have relatively high rents. One of the reasons they have the high rents because they're spending the high repair maintenance. So when we get to stabilize the expenses, we do things like normal wage, the actual insurance and the utilities for last year. Same as caretaker taxes. We stabilize repair maintenance. That's usually the most subjective one. And that's page 15, the next page. We have a breakdown of all the repair maintenance. We have each and every item. Not every item, but I mean, we categorize it in a lot of items. So on top, you'll see this 4 categories in red. Those are usually CapEx unless they're a normal recurring expenses every year. But we did not allow any of those expenses on top. You see, we did not allow anything for a roof. We could have allowed for a roof because it appears to be repairs and not replacement, but we did not. And normally we would have. We've allowed for windows and doors because it's happening every year. We exclude 2016 there. We've allowed blinds. Occurs every year. We're allowed parking lot. The repairs are allowed, but not replacement. So we've excluded 2017. Now for the other items, the flooring was stabilized at the average, which is $299 per suite. That's the third last column. And the maximum for that category is usually 500. Appliances, we stabilize 145, less than the maximum 225. So is painting, less than the maximum. Counters and cupboards also 94, less than maximum. So we're stabilizing 5-year average for everything except for those items in red. The plumbing for 2016 been excluded from the average. And the fire and safety went up to 150,000 in 2019. We excluded that from the averages. And therefore, when we stabilize each and every item, it comes to 278,000 or 1930 per suite. 270 is what we have in the previous page, page 14. That's our stabilized repair maintenance. So then we have a NOI, which is 30,000 less than the assessor. So we're pretty close. And the ending comes to 30,000 NOI. So that's our value, 17,101,000. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. DuPont. Mr. Brokus, do you have any questions?
Just a couple. It's on page 16. I know we're really not that far off in net operating income. We're about 30,000 off. There's one thing that I noticed just the fire and safety line. I know you omitted 2019 at 150 compared to the other years. Did you consider omitting 2017 at 84,000 as well compared to what it was in 16, 18, and 20?
No, I did not.
Do you have any detail in regards to why it's so high? Is there any cap involved in that level of fire and safety?
Is there what involved?
Was there any like capital like system improvements? Why it's 84,000 in 2017, but it was only 10,000 the year before?
That I don't know why.
Okay, fair enough. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Brokus. Ms. Linklater, do you have any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Stevens?
I also have no questions. Thank you.
I just have a quick question, Mr. DuPont. You indicated that the stabilized R&M is $19.30 per suite. Is that high? Is that in industry? Is that higher than an average industry average to your knowledge?
We did not do an industry average for 2023. For 2020, we were going to the board with a repair maintenance study that listed every property that would go in front of the board was an ongoing repair maintenance. We were stabilizing 2,000 to 2,500 for up to for high rises, and we were doing it on a site specific basis. So when they're 1,000 per suite, we go 1,000. We don't go to the average, and where they're high, we tend to go site specific. So I don't think we would reduce that.
Okay.
The 1930 to me is in line.
Okay. And then I have to ask you, the maximum per suite, you've indicated maximum $500 for flooring, $225 for appliance. What does that mean, maximum per suite? Is that an actual maximum, or what is
maximum? For 2020, we were part of our repair maintenance study. We had a major addendum where we had a supplement from K4 management. They would give us the cost to replace appliances and flooring for 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. And they had given us a whole bunch of data, and we had come to a maximum. For 2023, we went to K4 again. We said, give us your cost for your flooring for 1, 2 bedrooms, your appliances, and they give us 3, 4 properties. We took averages, and we came to a maximum of 500 for flooring and 225 for appliances. So it's we tend to allow the site specific, but when it's above 500, we're saying that they're doing it more often than 8 years. We take the another thing, we take the cost given to us by K4, and we divide it by 8 years to get the maximum per year.
Okay. Okay, thanks for explaining that to me. Okay, Mr. Barocas, is there a desire for summation? Maybe I should ask, is there rebuttal evidence?
I mean, we're not talking about cap on this one, we've heard already, so if that comes up later, it comes up. The only thing that sticks out is just that 1 year of fire and safety. Fire and safety got averaged down using the 16, 18, 20 would be even closer. So I think the model valuation is okay.
Okay. Mr. DuPont, desire for summation?
Yes. I agree with Matt that I should have removed the fire and safety for the high year, 84,000. I redid the averages for fire and safety. It comes to 14,237. Means I should increase my NOI by 17,492. I don't know if you want all these figures.
Yes, please.
Okay, so my restabilized fire and safety is 14,237.
Yep.
So the difference is 17,492. And if I add that to the 931, so 931, 990 plus 17,492, Makes it 949, 482. Divided by 0.0545. That comes 17,422,000.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. DuPont. I think then that includes or concludes item 3 on our agenda. And we will now move to item number 4 on our agenda, 333 Vaughan. And first of all, can I confirm that we're dealing with assessed value only, please?
Did I file an appeal for classification? I don't think
No,
I did.
I'm just looking for confirmation, that's all.
Oh. Sometimes,
sure that-
yeah. No,
Assessed value only? Okay. All right. Before we begin, are there any preliminary issues?
Let me check. I don't think on this one. Not as far as I can tell.
Okay. All right then.
Okay.
Mr. Barocas, when you're ready, 333 Vaughan, please.
Okay, just I'm gonna take a quick peek so I can streamline my presentation here. Okay. File number 22-1229, roll number 13052370200. 333 Vaughan. We got 2 lines of assessment classification here. We've got institutional property, school tax exempt, 40S, and then we also have some commercial as well in it. So we have it's a 55 plus life lease. That's currently occupying the residential space. 1988. We don't have any effective age on the property. 130 suites, 47 indoor parking on record, 8 outdoor parking. Of course, concrete frame. 17 stories. Page 2. They've been good so far, handing in mailers other than my unit. Page 3 shows the valuation. It's all modeled valuation. You can see the commercial component and the apartment component. It is 69 1 bedrooms, 51 2 bedrooms, so decently even-ish split for the 130 units. Average monthly rent $1,027.45. The rents are, unless something's changed, undisputed on this property, as far as I can tell. Page 4 shows the market income on it and the rents that we've assigned based on our model. We've got the rents range from 10 to 15. Rent comparables for the residential component are on page 5. So we've got rent columns here. Again, rents are in dispute, so I'm not going to really sit on this for a long here. But you can see that we fall within the bottom end of the range. Also did a further rent review on page 6, doing CMHC tables. Let's use the CMHC tables to calculate what percentage of the calculated rent would be. On page 7, you can see that taking zone, year, and building count into account, averaging them out, we're about 92% the model in regards to the market yearly potential. That's what yearly potential is, the market yearly potential. But again, not in dispute, thankfully. So we've got the tables on page 8 that show the CMHC table, which I got those rent amounts from. Comparable leases, these are just some commercial leases that were in the general area. Most of them, they are all on Portage though. I wasn't able to get any around back. They range from $9 to $13. So what do we have here? 11 to, and there's a $15 one. So I mean, we're in that ballpark. The mall might be a little bit high, but not significant enough to make a change. Cap rate table is on page 10. That shows our cap rates that I found. I've spoken about many times. Cap rates, again, on page 11. Municipal excerpts on page 12. We've got the actual mailer here. Year ended right before the reference date. And it shows the commercial rents, and the expenses. And then just some information from the web page, giving everybody an idea of what it's a life lease. So you pay an entrance fee to get into the place, which you get back when you leave. I've highlighted the monthly payment will be lower than the rents in comparable apartments. So the residential actually is a little bit lower than what a market rent would be, as reflected in the CMHC tables. And you see on page 16, they've got some common areas linked to the skywalk, reading room, lounge, kitchen, games, pool room, fitness area, meeting rooms, etc. So they've got a bunch of common area in this building as well. So I don't want to just read it out to you because that'd take a lot of time, but you can get an idea what the physical is like based on what they're telling us off the website here. So on page 18, you get a kind of a glimpse into the units. So you can see the units. They look pretty original to, what is this, 1988, I believe, off the top of my head, 1988. So 34 years old or so. 34, 35 years old. So yeah, original carpeting in there. So they haven't done any renos, hence we don't have any sort of effective age on it. On page 22, you can see the unit sizes on them. So the units are actually pretty good size. Some of these 2-bedroom units getting north of 1,000 square feet, 1,100, 1,200 square feet. They also have somewhat smaller ones as well. So I don't think unit size is a factor. I know that's been brought up in hearings in the past. I don't see it as a factor in this one based on what I'm reading on page 22. So on page 23, looks good as a waiting list to get into the property. So it's in demand as it's operating. It's a life lease. So that's my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barocas. Mr. Dupont, do you have any questions?
You said something about the fact that there is entrance fees makes the actual rents lower. Would you agree that the municipal board has ruled that the entrance fees is for a life lease, that they're paying that for the life lease? It's not a reduction on the rents, and that we have not been reducing the rents for that at the municipal board?
I know typically, like, I've seen life leases where the more you pay in, the lower your monthly payment or rent, however you want to call it, would be. I mean, it says right here on page 14, the monthly payment will be lower than rents in comparable apartments. So it seems that it does push the rents down, but I don't think we're actually disputing residential rents.
Yeah, no, it's just a statement you made. Now, the life lease concept is that they can only increase the rents by the amount of the expenses. So the expenses go down, they can't increase the rents, etc. So they can only increase the rents based on their original costs, amortization, and the cost to operate. Is that correct? Isn't that the life lease concept?
I'm just trying to read on page 14 where I'd be getting that. Any condition of this by increasing their equity contribution, they can get lower monthly costs there by reducing. If you have an order or something in your brief, I guess we'll have to cite it there, but I can't confirm that for certain right now.
We've seen a lot of life leases by SAM Property Management that shows the excess over the net income at the bottom of the page, and that excess or loss is taken to the rents for the next year. Isn't that what has happened many times on the SAM properties, where it's clear that the net income after all expenses is what can increase the rents by?
Can you give me a property as an example just to jog my memory? Like an address?
Oh, probably 395 Beaver Hill. A lot of the SAM properties, we noticed that the net income after their amortization and financing, etc., was what could increase the rents. And sometimes they have some rent rebates the next year because they had an excess the previous year. You don't recall that?
I do so many of these, man. I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. Now the subject leases that you have, are they based on actuals? You have it on page 4.
Page 9. Oh, page 4.
That's the rents you assign to every one of those properties. Is that correct?
Yeah, that would be the model. So it wouldn't be based on actuals. The actual comparables would be on page 9, but I didn't do any, given the amount of time I had to come up with this docket. I just literally pulled commercial leases in the area and just stuck on the brief.
So the page 4, the 596 square feet, it's the smallest premise and it has 1572 the highest. So your model gives a higher rent, a bit smaller, is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
So how come the top suite, the 14704, has a higher rent than the two, the next one at 1,030 square feet? Should that be a lower?
Yeah, right? I get what you're saying. For just strictly the economies of scale, with all else being the same, I would agree with you. I don't have an answer to that question.
Okay, so your average rent is $13.39 per square foot. Is that correct? 114 divided by 8,524.
I'll take your word for it that you've done the math. It seems correct by what you're.
Okay, and your comparables, page 9, right? That's the ones that were 9 to 1375 is your highest. Most of them are 9, 10, 11. So would you say your own comparables would indicate your rents are high?
I would agree with that, yes.
Are you aware that the subject property is a leased? They're leasing the land and they're leasing the parkade.
Yes, I believe I got that through reviewing your brief.
Now the subject has assigned parking of 47 stalls for 130 suites. Would you believe that's an inferior parking?
Yes.
And also their financial statements indicate they have less parking income than the parking expense. So they pay their share of the parking expense at the parkade. So you believe that's a negative feature for the subject property?
So 86,000. Parkade direct costs. if we're just looking at this 1 year in particular, I would have to look at more than 1 year in regards to that line to make a judgment. But in regards to that year, then yeah, that you definitely want more revenue than expense.
It's all questions I have.
Thank you, Mr. Dupont. Ms. Linklater, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do, Madam Chair. Just one. Mr. Barakas, this is a model brief, correct?
Yes, yes, it is.
And a model cap rate?
Yeah, everything's modeled.
And you indicated that the interior was original, that there had no renos been done?
Yeah, as far as we can tell, and as far as the pictures are shown on page 19 of my brief and onwards, it looks like it is original.
Okay, so with the 1988 build, this is approaching 35 years. You didn't consider adjusting the cap rate?
No, the cap rate's assigned by the model, so that's what we have 1988 originals. And so that's why it has a 5.25 cap.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Barakas. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Ms. Stevens, do you have any questions?
I do have a question, just a comment that it would be helpful on these commercial properties to know what your average rental rate is rather than having to try to figure that out. Okay, that's it though. I don't have a question. Thank you.
In the future, I'll have that for you.
Thank you.
Okay, and I have no additional questions. So, Mr. Dupont?
Another comment. In the future, can you put your name on top of the reports? So that when I get reports and I want to negotiate, I know who to negotiate with.
Oh, okay.
Some assessors do and some don't. So it'd be nice if you had your name there. Otherwise, I have to go chase to see who did the report. To tell the board that the 4 properties today, I'm not disputing the cap rate from what I can gather. So therefore, I won't present my cap rate study. And I dispute cap rate on this one only due to specific factors, not due to the base. So that for the future, the other 2, we can maybe save time. I'm not talking too much about the cap rates. So if you take my report, believe you, I will have my report there. The aerial photos, the maps, start on page 8, then page 9. It shows where it is. It's part of the big Portage Place complex. They have a big parkade underneath there. Everybody shares the parkade. And it's a land lease. So they don't own the property. They don't own the parkade. They have less stalls assigned to them than they should. So it's a permanent negative factor that it has due to the fact that it's land lease and the leasing the parkade. We have the map showing where they are. The cap rates at page 16. You basically say the cap rate for this age group, and the fact it's a high rise, would be 5.25. But we have the negative factors, and we say it's lack of ownership and control of parkade causes more expenses than revenue. The available parking is only 36.2% of the suites. Suite mix slightly inferior at 62% 1 bedroom. So I give it a 0.25% premium. The other thing is that the condition, as Matt has shown, that there's still flooring, still vinyl sheeting and carpet. I did inspect the property a few years ago. They had some nice common rooms, but the suites were kind of dated. The page 17 is our income approach. So we show the actual rents there on line 13. We have the actual EGI. Now the 2017, 2018, the actual EGI is inflated because they're collecting cable costs from the tenants, and then because they're paying for the cable for the tenants. So that the first 2 years you have to deduct the cable to get a true pictures. But in 2019, 2020, they got $1,000,005 and $1,491. The assessor is 1,527. So we accept that. So the EGI is undisputed. But line 10, you'll see the parking. So parking income for all the years 69, 77, 78, 78, 78,000 in 2020. And if you look at line 29, those are the expenses, parkade expenses, 90, 95, 97, 85, and 105. So they jumped in 2020. So they're getting 79,000 in parking revenue from their tenants, but they have to pay 105,000 for their share of the cost of the parkade. So it's a losing arrangement. That's a negative thing. So we report the stabilize the actual parking income in there and the average parking expense. So we're not going with the actual for that year. But nevertheless, it's a negative feature. This property may never do well because of that situation with the parking, the insufficient parking, and they don't have control. So that's part of my 0.25% cap rate premium. So back to the stabilization of expenses. Insurance is an actual management fee, 5%. The professional fees, they have an audit every year, so we reduce that to 3,000. So they have higher fees due to the audit. We have much lower. The office and sundry, we did the average. Utilities at actual. Security and Netcom, line 26, that's increasing also. It was 62,000 5 years before, and it went to 71, 113, 122, 136, so it's now higher. Now we stabilized at the 3-year average instead of the actual 2020. The next item is the repair maintenance and reserves. Now we stabilize a maximum of 2,100 per suite for the repair maintenance, including the reserves, and the reserves line 27. So in the past we were stabilizing each one individually. And we have comments at the bottom under remarks. So the wages and men include the online property manager. They do their own management. So they have a lower management fee. That's where we put the 5%. But then we exclude their own on-site management. We allow for the superintendent or caretaker only. And we had gotten the actual costs in the past. It was 56,000 in 2018. We bring it up to 60,000 now. The remarks also show 2016, 2018 at the MBM. We had settlements. The repair maintenance was settled, including the reserve, at $22.15 and $23.55 per suite. So we settle higher in the past than what I'm using now. One of the reasons I'm settling or using lower is because the expense ratio is getting kind of high. My expense ratio line 32 is 67%. So if I went with site-specific repair maintenance, I would have much higher expense ratio, much lower value. So I'm trying to balance things out so I don't go too low on the value. So that comes at the NOI 498 versus the assessment 707. The 5.5 cap rate gives him 9,057. 2020 appeals outstanding at the municipal board, so that's why I'm not quoting it. But 2016, 2018 had been settled, and likely was settled with that at those levels of repair maintenance. Now, the next page is the revenue expense for the commercial. And I sent you a revised one by email just before the hearing, because some of the numbers that are squeezed in there. So you should have that. If you can look at that.
Stephen, we have that in our.
Yeah, you should have that. It's there. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, it's there. It's
Okay.
so
Income
it's
and
the
expense
middle one.
history. Not knowing if I'm looking at the right one.
You might have to refresh. It's going to be titled 04, file number, street name, applicant brief, and then at the very end it says text size increased in the file name. There should be 3 items.
Just need to find it.
It's the middle one.
Okay, it's just a 1 page.
Yeah, it's just a 1 page of revised that I sent you.
Okay, and the title is Income and Expense History and Stabilization Apartment.
So apartment, then on the far right says commercial in red.
Got it. Okay. Everybody have that? Okay. All right, Mr. Dumont.
Okay, so on top I show what the assessments were, and like going back, so it's 1,293,000. 2020 is 1,277, but it's at the municipal board. 2018 we settled at 777, and 2016 we settled at 453. I just look at 2018, we settled at 684 per square foot net. The assessor is now using 1339. So if you look at line 1, I use 136,303, which would be the actual rents that I had. Well, actually not. The line 8, they received 119,674. And then in the middle top of the page, the rentable square footage is shown 8524, where was rented on March 21st is some 487. So it had a vacancy 12.2. So I factored the 119,000 back up to get a 12.2% vacancy. So I stabilized line 8 at the actual received, 119,674, and the lines above that are factored up. So to get the vacancy. So my potential market rent 136 comes to 15.99, shown on the far right. That's at 15.99. It's a gross rent. The assessor has 13.39 net, and they have 11% vacancy. Line 10, we add the actual parking. It's an offsetting expense. You'll see that there's an expense later on. Line 29, 89.48. So they got slightly more expenses than income. So it's just in and out, really, or actually it's more expensive than income. The financial statements separated the residential and commercial income for all prior years, 2016 to 2018, 2019, 2020 did not. So I went through a major exercise using 2017, 2018 to see what the percentages were and applied that to 2019, 2020. There's a lot of work. to get to these little figures here. And you can see that I have done the appendix. We can go to that later on. So line 14 is stabilized insurance at actual, and then we show the expense on the far right, 42 cents per square foot. So we show these expenses because then we will deduct from the gross to get the net at the end. So line 32. Line 31, the stabilized expense is 1049, and that's excluding the shortfall, because that way we get the and excluding management, so to get a true net before shortfall management. So the net excluding the shortfall and the management is 550 per square foot. So that's my conclusion at the end. That's why I do the per square foot calculations. Line 16, 17, the financial statements allocate professional fees and sundry expenses to the commercial. And I did not allow any of those two expenses. We put that as part of the 3% of other. And the other expenses come to 3047, which is about the same as the 3-year average anyways. Utilities, we stabilized at actual 2020. Security, actual 2020. Repair maintenance, we do it at 5 years, which is 190 per square foot. Wages and min, we don't allow any, which is fairly conservative on our part. So we're not allowing those expenses. We allow the parking expense actually, and we allow the taxes. The taxes we calculated, we took the tax bill assessments for 2020. We did that for residential also. I forgot to mention that we did the residential taxes at CC20, and we did the taxes here calculated also. So going to an exercise, so the net rent comes to 550 per square foot. We had settled 2018, 684. The municipal board settlement, I noticed we had done the same way. We did the same way as an apartment when we stabilized revenue and expense. So going with market rents, it relates to the actuals that they are getting. So we're stabilizing actual. So our net income is 26,092, much lower than the assessor, but the assessor is high to start with, much higher than the 2018 settlement. And we use 7.5 cap rate because it's a riskier income stream. And we come to a value of 347,000. And on the remarks, it shows where the net rate calculations, which is done in the far right. Now it comes to a lower value than we had for 2018, 2016, getting relatively close. But this is actual. So they have increased security costs. They have the parking expenses the way they are. That's only 12% vacancy versus the assessor 11. And I was very conservative on some of the expenses. So even though it's a low value, it's what the property is operating at. So that's my value on that. Now we can go to back to the original report. I can go quickly to the appendix if you want.
Yeah, perhaps just hit the highlights, yeah?
Oh, okay. Appendix page 27. That's the financials that they had. And that's where I did my exercises of calculating whatever expense that they had. 2018 and 2019, they actually had residential and commercial. for revenue and expense. And I went to exercise and doing what it was of the percentage of the total. And I have the for each expense, I have the percentage, like 919 for the bank charges, etc. And we have the utilities also. Second to bottom is 8614. Most of the other expenses are around the mid 90s. And the taxes, we calculate the taxes. So most of their expenses are on the mid 90s. Utilities 86, 14. So then we applied that to the next page, page 28, for the 2020 and 2021, because they stopped allocating to residential, commercial. We applied those ratios, and that's what we applied to spreadsheets in our income approach. So that's my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. DuPont. Mr. Barocas, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have a little bit of rebuttal too. You want to do that first, or do you want me to?
No, let's have questions first. Yeah.
Okay. So on page 18 here, you've worked out a 67% expense ratio. Would you agree that seems high compared to most 1988 buildings?
It's page 17 of residential.
Yeah, page 17, the actual page 17.
Yeah, it's higher than normal, and part of it is they have less parking income because they have less parking assigned to them, and they have more parking expense. So that's the expense ratio it comes to. It's on the high side, and we have a maximum default of 70% that we've done for settlement purposes, or we've gone to the Board of Revision, same thing with the 70% maximum. So we're getting close to maximum.
Okay, and then maybe I missed it just in regards to your line item here on page 27, or rather the same page, line 27A. You got a 2,100 per suite max. I can't remember if you went over like how you came to that maximum figure.
I went through the exercise of stabilizing repair maintenance, and you can see there was 485, 352, 354. The average for 3 years, 397. So it was very high. And so I stabilized a lot lower than actual. I stabilized slightly less than 2016, 2018 settlements, mainly because I was trying to balance out the expense ratio. I didn't want to go too high on that.
Okay.
So I was relatively conservative, and I went away from the actuals, which were higher.
Okay, and then just let me see if there's anything else on page 17 here. So, okay, so page 19, this is your workup. And for commercial net operating income. And you calculated net operating income using the gross rents and then deducting the actual expenses. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe I missed it. This is a very big brief. Where were the commercial expenses separated? Is there a page I can reference?
Oh, I went through that, the appendix. So 2017, 2018, they had the actual separation of revenue and expense in the financials. Do you want me to go through that?
Just, can you steer me to that page so I can just take a look? I know you mentioned it, and I know it was from like a few years ago.
Page 26 is the 2018, 2017, I believe.
26.
And if you look at that page, they separate the revenue and expense for commercial and residential. So the last 4 columns, they have residential, commercial.
Oh, okay. I see.
And so they have all the commercial expenses there on that line, if that's what you're looking at. And then I calculated the percentages of the total for those expenses, and that's what I put forward for the next page, page 27,
Okay.
page 26 and 27.
Yeah. Okay. It just seems odd. At least for me, from what experience I have in commercial, I don't see it much with like a gross adjusted. I've seen a lot more like net rents based on that smaller expense percentage.
Normally we try to take all the rents, we calculate the expenses, we try to get a net rent, and we'd have a net rent method.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did is the same thing, where I could have done the stabilization of expenses, the $10 in expense, less the actual $15 gross, and I could have done a net rent method the way you do it, starting with 550. It's the same exercise, but it's basically more of a shortcut, and it's clearer.
Okay. So you put weight on what you said we settled at for 2016 and 2018, from what I understand, right?
Yeah, I look at that to make sure I was how we did it. And 2018, we settled on that method for commercial.
Okay.
We had less expenses, and we went at $684 per square foot, I believe I said. Which on that we had to settle that.
Just in general, do you think the real estate market has improved since 2016 and 2018 in terms of for apartments?
Yes.
Okay. Those are my questions. I do have a little bit of rebuttal. We could do that now, please. Well, or I guess the panel has questions.
Yeah, we'll deal with questions first, and then we'll go to rebuttal. Ms. Linklater, do you have any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Stevens?
I have no questions either. Thank you.
Okay, I just had a question. You've commented a couple times about how security has increased, and you can see in your table that it has, but why has it?
Factors famous don't show why, but it's likely downtown's a less safe place. There's been many articles about the fact there's a lot of drug addicts downtown and homeless people. To me, downtown's a dangerous place. I'm glad I don't work downtown anymore. And so, if you're a senior citizen living in that address, you would need more security. So I think it's a sign of the times, homelessness and drug addicts in the area. And that's based on actuals.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Brokus, you indicated there's rebuttal evidence.
Yeah, just so
we're just gonna we just have to get it.
Okay.
Mr. Lund, do we have it yet?
Yep. It's going to be labeled 22, file number 1229, and A&T rebuttal. It's just past item 7.
Just past item 7. Okay. Okay, I think that's it. This is December 17th, 2020 assessment appeal from the municipal board.
Yeah, so it's been, I feel because like the orders from the past have been referenced so much in regards to the rates we agreed to in terms of commercial repair and maintenance, that it would be important to actually put forth the value. I know we're not supposed to talk about past decisions, but this isn't a decision. This is an agreement that we came to. So that's something different. So the first one is go to page 2 of 2016, the 2016 order. And you can see what we agreed to was 11,568,000 for the 40S, and then we agreed to 453, which Henry did rightfully mention is a lot closer to what he is saying today. And then for the 2018 one, we can go to that. Or rather, so that was the 2018 one. Pardon me, this is confusing. There's a bunch of tables on these pages. So for 2018, it was 11,322,000 residential and 777,000 for commercial for 12,099,000. So like, I'm just not sure why there was such a big drop.
I'm sorry. What numbers are you citing, and on what page?
If we go to the one that two rebuttals I put forward.
Okay, so I've just got one of them here. So
okay, sorry.
Oh, there's 3 attachments. The email has 3 attachments.
Yeah, there should be one labeled A&T rebuttal, and there should be 2 and 3 as well, right next to it in the SharePoint.
okay, I have to open them all, I think.
So the one that has file number 17A10518, that's in regards to the 2018 decision, and the one that has file number 15A10290, that's the 2016 decision. So basically what we're saying is like we did agree to the parameters that Henry was saying, with the valuation and overall value is much different, and everything is taken as a whole. So it just seems that if the real estate market has improved, there's just a disconnect between the recent site-specific calculations and what we've historically come to in the past. That's what I was just simply trying to point out, because it's been brought up a few times in the hearing. I felt it relevant. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Barocas, do you have? Or thank you, Mr. Barocas. Mr. Dupont, do you have any questions?
So you show the amounts, and I believe I referred to the amounts in my report. I show 2018, 2016, etc. Right? So, what extra are you giving that we didn't have before?
Did you? I don't know if you had the orders. I saw that in your brief itself on page 18. You had referenced the municipal board settlements R&M.
Yeah.
So I felt that it's necessary that if we're talking about the settlement amounts for both commercial components and specific components of your stabilization, that the board also know the overall valuation that was referenced, because I didn't see these orders in your brief when I was scanning through.
Okay, so in essence, you do not dispute the fact that we settled repair maintenance at 2215 and 2355 for those 2 prior municipal board.
I believe, if my memory serves, that's around what we settled at, but the overall valuation was taken into account. That's the main thing we were working on.
And in 2018, for the commercial valuation, we settled the same method as I applied on my page 18. Is that correct?
I would have to take your word for it. I don't have it in front of me right now. I'd have to go digging through all my files, but
okay, so you don't dispute what I said in that regards.
I don't have the evidence in front of me to dispute that.
Okay, that's all questions I have on that.
Thank you. Ms. Linklater, do you have any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Stevens?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dupont, do you have rebuttal evidence?
No, I don't.
Okay. Mr. Barocas, is there a desire for summation?
There just seems to be a disconnect somewhere. These are big statements, so I didn't have the time to really go through them as much as I want to, given the pace of our hearing scheduling. It just seems based on the values that we've agreed to in the past, I would have to do further review than what the confines of this hearing would give me. So I asked the valuation would be confirmed. It's probably going to be pushed to the municipal board regardless of what happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barocas. Mr. DuPont, do you desire summation?
Yes, the prior municipal board settlement for 16-18, we did not finish 2020 yet. Were higher values as per the orders. And we agreed with the assessor's rents for 2016-2018 as we are for 2023. So the main difference that we have are in the expenses. We had settled the cap rates. As you know, we settle cap rates for this type every year. So now we're not really disputing the cap rate except for the cap rate premium. So the difference is that the expenses are going up. You can see security has gone up quite a bit. If you look at my line 23, my utilities, there were 147,000 in 2017. That's now 164. So the utilities are going up. Parking expenses are going up. We go with site specific the way it is now, and it's coming to a lower value. And I tempered everything by maximizing the repair maintenance to less than what we had for 2016-2018 settlements, even though repair maintenance is a lot higher. Actual is a lot higher. So I stabilized as reasonable as I could, and it has a lower value than before, but that's what this property has. It has some negative permanent features like a land lease, a parking lease, insufficient parking, and these are the things they have to live with. And that's my submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DuPont. Okay, that concludes item number 4 on our agenda. Let's just take a minute to pull up our next one.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, could we just take a very quick 5 minutes?
Sure. Let's recess for 5 minutes. We'll come back. How about, in 5 minutes. That sounds good. Thank you.
2, 1, we are live.
Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting back to order. We're now dealing with item number 5 on our agenda, which is 400 Webb Place. First of all, are there any preliminary issues? Mr. Barocas?
Yes, on this one, there's a request for non-cooperation.
Okay. Just give me a minute. Okay, well, yes, let's deal with that first.
Okay, yeah. So with this one, there is another PID. I believe it's the parkade that's separated from this property. It's underneath. So what happened was, if you go to page 11, starting at page 11 of my brief, what happened is they return the income and expenses. Actually, it starts on page 16. Let's go there. So they only return the income and expenses for the commercial parking. This is something that the applicant also only has for this 2020 year in their brief. So they just didn't turn it in to us. There's 2 PIDs. So they took this PID, which is the one under appeal, the 33,000, and added in the information for the other PID, which is the parking. So, which is 33,100. So we don't have any of the residential information at all. So as such, I have to go for non-compliance on it. And that's my non-compliance request. Thank you.
Mr. Dupont, do you have any questions or response?
This is a land lease property. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
And who did you send it to? The owner of the land or the owner of the building?
I don't have that information in front of me. It would have been, let's see here. We got a letter back from the North Portage Development Corporation.
The owner of the parkade, the owner operator of the parkade.
That's who sent the letter back. So the parkade returned the income and expenses to us. We have their information. We don't have the apartment information.
No, did you send it to the owner of the building?
We would have, yes, but I don't have any documentation in regards to that. They've been good in previous years, but I mean, we don't have anything for this year, so I have to go for non-compliance. We didn't get anything back from them.
You would have to send 2 questionnaires, one to the owner of the land and parkade, and one to the owner of the building. Can you confirm that you actually sent 2 questionnaires requests, including the owner of the building?
Well, this questionnaire here, you can see the roll number on it is 33,000. That's the PID for the apartment, not the parkade. So we sent that one out to 400 Web. They get them every year, and they didn't return it to us. They returned it with the parking information only on it.
So where's your letter where you say you sent it?
We have the.
You don't have that. You have a page 13 where you have a letter request and no address, no name on that.
Yeah, it's sent to that PID. There wasn't a change in our system in regards to mailing address. So there's no reason to believe we didn't send it out.
But you don't have proof of service or proof that you sent it to the right party.
Well, we sent it out to them. We sent it every year. They returned it only with the parking. Do you have income and expenses for this?
No, I don't. We get most of it from the assessor's website. On the assessor's website, didn't have it, so I didn't have it for this hearing. Mainly because the owner of the building did not provide it to you, and likely because you did not send the questionnaire to the owner of the building. Anyways, you don't have proof that you sent it to the owner of the building.
We haven't changed the mailing address in our system. They've been compliant in the past, but they didn't send it unless we didn't change the address in our system, so it would have been sent out to them. It's an automated process.
You would have, could have, but you don't have no proof. You agree with that?
Well, I mean, I didn't deliver it myself, but it's done en masse.
I know, but normally you come in front of the board, you show a copy of your letter that you're giving, that you sent out. You have a Canada Post or some kind of a delivery company confirming the receipt, and you don't have any of that.
So here's the issue with that is because they sent it back. The issue is they didn't return the mailer associated with this PID. The issue is they returned parking expenses only associated with this PID. So
the
it
issue
wasn't.
is you did not send it to the owner of the building, so you cannot fault penalize the owner of the building if you did not send a questionnaire to that owner.
They only sent parking expenses to us back, so they weren't flagged to get another mailer, which we aren't legally required to do regardless. We just do that. So they only returned the parking on it. You don't have the expenses either. So it's non-compliance.
That's all questions I have.
Ms. Linklater?
So the address, Mr. Barakas, you're saying has not changed. You have been getting the income and expense from this property for however many years, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and Mr. DuPont, you're disputing this because it's the owner of the property, or you're saying did not receive this? Were you in communication with the owner?
No, it's not. I'm just saying this has no proof. You showed the, I don't think Matt's evidence shows the owners. You have the official owners of this property from your website. I don't know if I have it in my brief, but I just checked it out and it has two. The property owners is listed by the city is North Borders Development Corporation #1 and Cityscape Residence Corporation #2. This shows two owners in this property. So would you agree with that, Matt? Your ownership that you did not provide in your brief is in fact two entities.
Okay, Mr. DuPont, I'm having trouble hearing you. Can you possibly put your mic down? There.
Oh yeah. Okay, sorry.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry. So now I'm just going to ask you to repeat what you just said because I'm sorry I didn't really catch any of it. It was very garbled.
Page 25 of my brief, it shows that there's two owners shown by the city of Winnipeg. North Porter's Development, so they would be there. So it's, I guess this should be part of my submission of this issue.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah.
So now we're questioning Matt.
Oh, okay, thank you. That's all my questions, Madam Chair.
Ms. Stevens?
Okay, I'm just, I have two here, one for each gentleman. Okay, so Matthew, you're saying, I'm just confirming that you've sent it to the same address every year. You've always gotten a reply, but this year you did get a reply, so a second letter didn't go out. But when you look closely at the reply, it only had the parking information, the parkade information, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. DuPont, I'm not sure that you directly answered Ms. Linkletter's question about, did you actually talk to the owner of the building to see if they received the mailer?
No, we sent an email to their accountant and asked him for their financial statements, and the accountant said that they are in the process of moving. They couldn't provide it to me. So I don't know whether they received the questionnaire or not, but normally the proof of service is on the assessor.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Okay. Mr. Brokus, I just want to confirm that on page 13 of your brief, that is the letter that would have gone to the property owner. It says property group multifamily, 400 Webb Place, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And because this one says multifamily, is there another one that says something different, property group, something different than multifamily?
Expense information, property group, multifamily. I'm not sure, but this one does indicate that it is multifamily. The roll number is the roll number associated with this PID that's under appeal.
Okay. Now, previously, which might not be an indicator, that we should put much weight on, but previously you indicated that it would only typically one letter would go to this property owner and you would receive the information for both the multifamily and the commercial component. Is that correct?
Well, the other PID would submit their mailer. They would submit their own income and expenses associated with that PID. And then we would get the income and expenses associated with this PID for everything that is respective to both.
But one mailer would go.
No, 2 mailers would go.
2 mailers would go. So you sent 2 mailers according to your verbal evidence, but only got the one back on the parking.
Well, we got the parking information, because if you look at the PID, the parking PID is 13096033100. This is 13096033000. So basically the parking information got put on this mailer and returned to us. So then it came into our system as, oh, we got their stuff. So we didn't send a second mailer out. But when we reviewed the mailer associated with this PID, all it had was the parking information on it.
Okay, I think I get it. Okay, Mr. DuPont, would you like to present your evidence on this issue, please?
Just to tell the board that the appeal that you would have in front of you and that Matt has on page 11 is filed by Cityscape Residence Corporation as tenant. So that's the one that's renting from the landowner. So that's why there's a talk about two questionnaires, etc., 2 entities. So that's part of the proof. So my appendix, okay, I have the same thing. My appendix. So page 25. So this is from the assessor's website, and it shows 2 entities there. I don't know if you see that, page 25. North Portage Development Corporation is one, Cityscape Residence Corporation is the other. And we have an appeal for Cityscape Residence. North Portage is the owner of the land, and they have a land lease, and they operate the parkade. So the city sent the questionnaire to the parkade owner, the landowner, because they had a reply from them. And they have no proof that they sent the questionnaire to Cityscape Residents or that they had what address. Normally, and I have the rest of the questionnaires, and I got the same things that it was answered. What's on the assessor's website was the answer by the parkade owner, North Portage. And so normally, this is strict evidence that's required before the board gives a penalty, and normally the assessor has approved they sent it where they sent it to the right party that was received, and usually there's a registered letter showing it's received. So they don't have the basic; they don't even know where it was sent. They have no proof of delivery, not even where it was sent. So I say there should be no penalty because of lack of proof.
Mr. Brokus, go ahead.
And that's it. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Brokus, do you have questions?
Why don't you have the mailer if they have the information? Like just a general accounting workup. Anything, past 2017.
We don't ask our clients for questionnaires because we rely on the assessor's website to give it. So the clients still give the data to us and to the assessor to be double work. So for all those that are compliant with the city of Winnipeg, we get our information directly from the city of Winnipeg. very few times do we actually go to the clients to get to the information. So it's a normal process. We rely on the city website to get the data.
So you don't think that just that because they only returned the parking information under the wrong PID, that should be non-compliant?
Wrong PID doesn't mean anything. There's no proof that you sent it to the right party. It appears you sent it to the owner, North Portage, owner of the land. And there's two entities shown on your website. One's the tenant, one's the owner. And you have no proof that you sent it to the tenant, the applicant. And you have no proof that you even sent it to the owner. You got a reply from the owner, but you have no proof. You have the burden of proof which you did not live up to.
They didn't have any problem before though, did they?
We had questionnaires for the last assessment 2020. We had the 2016, 2018, all the way to 2018, I believe, yeah. So we got 2019, 2020 missing. We had it previously.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Linklater,
I have no questions. Thank you.
Ms. Stevens.
I have nothing further other things.
Okay, so now we'll go into camera and make our decision on the burden of proof issue. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting back to order. After much consideration, our decision is to grant the request for non-compliance. That means the burden of proof will shift to Mr. DuPont on the issue of assessment. Mr. DuPont, I want to confirm that your application here is to revise liability classification and assessed value.
I asked for confirmation on everything. The municipal board cannot overturn the board of revision decision, so therefore I don't want to proceed with the hearing on the value.
Okay.
Anything, so I want confirmation.
Okay. So I think then that would conclude item 5. Okay, let's just get organized then, and we will move to item number 6 on our agenda, which is 500 Portage Avenue. And Mr. DuPont, do we have 3 points of appeal on this as well?
It should just be amount of assessed value on our application.
Just assessed value? Okay, I've written it down the wrong column then.
I have all 3 here in our spreadsheet.
Well, thank you. That's what I thought. Okay, let me just double check.
Allow me to check the
Yeah.
Your application here. The application.
Yeah.
Your application only has checked off amount of assessed value seeking decrease.
Okay. Okay, then that's pretty clear. All right, Mr. Brokus, when you're ready, we will begin with 500 Portage Avenue.
Well, 22-1632, roll number 120911 32000 500 Portage Avenue. It's got, again, it's a residential multi-use. It's got 2 lines. It's got 1 line of commercial, and then it's got another line at $48 million here on the residential, coming out to a valuation modeled 60,663,000. 17 stories, 1980. On record, we don't have an effective age placed on it. There's 428 suites, 269 indoor parking spots on record. Construction class C masonry granite walls. Page 2, good with handing in their mailers. No recent sales going through land titles, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Income value summaries on page 3. It's all modeled. So we got commercial spaces, office, retail, restaurant. There's also parking as well. So for the average monthly rent per unit, $1,054.45. With our model workup for apartment generates cap rate as a cap rate of 5.55, which is not in dispute from what I recall. So then we were capitalized income here at 48,821, which is the biggest part of the assessment. We've got our commercial stuff here as well. Subject property, the net rents assigned by the model can be seen on page 4 in terms of the commercial premises, the parking, and the retail. So there's a whole bunch of them in there. Colony Square. Rent comparables is page 6 for the residential side of the coin. So you can see we do have a higher proportion of bachelor units compared to comparables 2. Compared to comparable 2, but actually when you're looking at the other comparables, 1, 3, and 4, they all do have taken as a whole a pretty decent amount of bachelor units compared to their total units. Gross floor area here again, that encompasses commercial area. So as I mentioned, the first property with the West, I would take that with a grain of salt. That's not suite size. That encompasses the commercial area as well. So in regards to the rents, looks like we're okay. We're at the bottom part of the range with comparables 1, 3, and 4. We've got some comparable places here, net places in the area, just to support the rents that the model is putting forward in terms for office, retail, also restaurants. And then we have our cap rate evidence that we think we want to go through because we agree on it. So then we are on to page 13. We've got the actual income and expense mailer. So it shows many line items, what they're getting, what they're spending, etc. In terms of the commercial as well, it begins on page 15. There's more of a breakdown there. And the parking as well on page 16. We're overshooting the parking. On page 17, there was one permit, or there's one of the few permits taken out here in terms of July 2018. Exterior alterations. I apologize for the blurriness. I probably could have put this in, but I'll read it out loud. Exterior alterations to the multi-use residential building, including replacement and redesign of the entrance canopies, curtain walls, slope glazing, metal cladding, and existing awnings, new steel structure for number 1 canopy, electrical work. I got I think of a picture later on in my brief of that area. And that was to the tune of $1 million, $39,000. Then we got another permit here for 576,174 on page 18. Saying the replacement of window units on the outside, so they did the windows as well. And then another permit on page 19, they did some interior alterations. So it's 50,000. Repairing a few suites, public corridor, and mechanical chase separations, that kind of work. I don't have any other detail in regards to that, but they're spending money on it. Page 20, I found this in our records, and this has been brought to the board before. So it looks like this property actually transacted between companies outside of land titles. From the vendor, it says it transacted for $70 million, subject to customary closing adjustments. Through tower complex consisting of 428 suites, approximately 83,000 square feet of commercial space, and a 270 stall underground parking was acquired by L. Reed in 2008 for $38 million. So they bought it for $38 million in 2008. And they sold it for $70 million in 2015. Probably a share sale. I also, just like 333 Ward, didn't go through land titles. It's been Altus cap rate study. It's been in front of this board for cycles. I'm sure everybody knows about it more than enough. So, I mean, it sold for $70 million in 2015, and they've been renovating it. How much renovating have they done? Page 22, there's an article in regards to what the purchaser's plans are for the property. So Colony Square undergoing millions of dollars of renovations, upgrades over the next 10 years. Timber Creek Asset Management acquired the St. Mary's Avenue Complex late last year. Waynesville Real Estate Investment Trust for $70.25 million. So that's another document which is confirming the transaction at that amount. And then the senior at Timber Creek said they're ready to begin investing millions of more dollars. He wouldn't say how many. Upgrades on the the complex, which includes the rental apartments, the commercial suite, etc. We've always spent a fair bit of capital on improving our investments, said the co-founder and managing director of the portfolio at the time. Here we go, that the property is going to be renovated inside and out. So basically, without reading the whole thing for you, they're fixing the place up. Halfway through the article, there's a paragraph which I think we should really pay attention to, and I'll key on in my summation, is that Zari said exterior work should get underway shortly and be completed within a year. The upgrades to the indoor common areas and amenity space is done over the next 2 years. But the upgrade to the suites won't take place until each of the existing tenants move out. That's why it's expected for 10 years. It's going to take 10 years to complete the entire project. He added. So the important thing to consider with that is that the physical reference date that for the asset that we're valuing is January 1st, 2023. That's the physical asset we're valuing. But we have to put it in conditions April 1st, 2020. So if the end of December 2020 mailer only takes into account the suites that were renovated at that time, then the 2 years of them renovating more suites as people move in and out surely indicates that the potential rent indicated on the January or the December 31st, 2020 income and expense statement is too low based on the physical asset having a higher number of renovated suites on the date we're valuing for physical, which is the 1st of January, 2023. So they're renovating as people move out. On the next page, page 23, second paragraph down, it says, and think about the renter. The renter is being given the opportunity to live in a nicer suite, notwithstanding, they will have to pay more. So they know they're going to get more as they renovate, as they very well should with their investment. So, I mean, as we continue on in our brief, we've got just a general location on page 24. And you can see it's on right off Portage Avenue there. And we can see some pictures of the renovations starting on page 25. So we have a 1980 age on this property. We don't have any effective age on this property, but it's not 1980 in there. As we scroll through, you can see the common area, the awning on page 26. Definitely not 1980. And then we can see that the exterior has been, looks like it's been redone when comparing it to the picture of the exterior on page 22 in the Free Press article. So they bought it for 70 million. They did a bunch more. Page 27, you can see they've been renovating the interior of the suites as tenants move out, and very deservingly so. They'll be getting more rent for their investment. So scrolling to the end without dragging this on and on, we only have it assessed at $60 million. They bought it for 70 and they've been renovating it. So we're happy with our valuation. It is at the municipal board right now at 57 million for 2020, and that's being discussed. It's not settled yet. That's my evidence.
Thank you, Mr. Barocas. Mr. Dupont, do you have any questions?
Yeah, so your sale documents on your page 22. No, actually it's page 20. Right, so first paragraph, November 2, 2015. LREIT announced they had just bought it for so many million. And then the last line says the property was acquired by LREIT in 2008. So it appears LREIT bought in 2015 from LREIT that previously had bought it in 2008. Is that correct?
The owner of this one says LREIT Holdings 50. And in the news article indicate that it was Timber Creek Asset Management, who was the purchaser for the second sale. So it's not the same company, it seems.
Do you have the owner shown anywhere for this appeal?
Yes, owner LREIT Holdings 50 Corporation.
And you have the owner for 2015. Do you know what it was, 2015 or 2010 for that matter? I said we bought evidence showing it was the same owner in 2010 as 2015 as current.
Okay.
But your own article indicates that LREIT bought from LREIT. Did you say it's an internal sale? That's why it didn't go to land titles?
Well, I mean, I don't have any other detail, but it did say they still resulted in net cash proceeds to LREIT, net of mortgage debt of approximately 28 million. So they sold to themselves and made 28 million. I'm not sure. Maybe your rebuttal has some information more that can put some light on that.
Yeah, no, it's just that your article is relying on a sale from LREIT to LREIT. So it's an internal sale. I don't think we should rely too much on that.
Well, page 22, it does say Toronto-based Timber Creek Asset Management acquired the complex from Lanesborough Real Estate Investment Trust. So I don't know how that works, but it looks like they acquired it from a Toronto company acquired it from a Winnipeg company, 70 million. So is it unclear? Yeah, didn't go through land titles, but there's some kind of indication of value there. That's more like what I'm interested in.
On the commercial, there's been a vacancy problem in the commercial for many years. I believe since 2014. Have you investigated that or adjusted for that?
No, I honestly, I wasn't able to dive very deep into this. I pulled some comps, and that's about it in regards to the commercial. And then I just look at the valuation as a whole in comparison to past decisions and also, of course, the sale.
Your comparables for the apartment, page 6. You said yourself that the square footage is not accurate because it includes the commercial.
Oh, well, that's just the gross floor area, and it would include the commercial as well, as it would for all of these properties where 2, 3, 4 also have commercial. So that gross floor area would also be bloated if considered suite size.
Number 3, 160 Hargrave have a commercial on the main floor, like a store, and the main floor does not have a separate tower like the subject has.
You know, I didn't investigate or inspect any further to the comparables other than this chart.
And the subject is 72 bachelors, and some of the comparables have less bachelors percentage wise. Number 3 has no bachelors at all, so you say that one's not comparable.
Number 3, I think number 3's got 96 bachelors. 33.
Oh,
33
sorry.
Hargrave.
Yeah, 33 Hargrave. Sorry, and your number 2 is 0.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the other ones do. Obviously, I'd like to have them all have bachelor suites, but I mean, number 3's got a higher percentage of bachelor suites, and on an overall percentage basis, I think that number 4's got a pretty good percentage wise, considering it doesn't have 2 bedrooms there. So I'm okay with the rents.
So normally when we go to municipal board, we settle on site-specific rents. Is that correct? And you do evaluation on site-specific rents. You rarely go with those comparables.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's all questions I have.
Thank you, Mr. Dupont. Ms. Linklater, do you have any questions?
I just have one question, Mr. Barakas. You read out from the newspaper article that this company we are assuming Timber Creek, that purchased this property, was going to be renovating the apartments as tenants left.
Yes, that's what they said. Yeah.
Right, and then you also in your brief have pictures of updated suites, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, do you know the percentage of the suites that have been renovated?
That's a great question. And that's something that is going to be pursued, definitely, because this, I will assume, it inevitably will get pushed to another level of court. We're going to have to find out exactly how many renovated suites there are at the end of 2022, so we can take the physical into account, because the end of 2020, there's 2 years of renos. So that merely gives a good idea of what the renovated count was at the end of 2020, but it doesn't for our physical reference data, unfortunately. And that's just a function of the framework that we're operating under here.
Right. Would you happen to know if all the renos on the commercial side have been completed?
No, but we'd love. I'm sure, because I know this one is. Ken is working on this one for 2020 with Henry Municipal Board, and I'm sure that's going to be part of it, an inspection. And we just need more information.
Okay. I thank you. That's all my questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Linklater. Ms. Stevens, do you have any questions?
I do not. Thank you.
I just have Well, a couple questions. We focused a lot of the discussion on the apartment side, but not much on the commercial side. Can you explain what this is, what this property is used for on the commercial side? And just talk about your rents in your model compared to your comparables. Kind of glossed over those.
Okay, yeah. So again, just in regards to renovations and the commercial, I know the article did say it would be, I think they, was the commoners. We'd have to go do an inspection and see what the commercial renovations are like. In regards to the rents in our model, starting on page 4, you can see the OFB rents. Here, they're in the $11 to $13 range, and then we've got commercial OFB comps on page 7, and they look to be in the $12 to $16 range. Then we go back to parking's at $90. I don't think parking is in dispute if memory serves. So if I'm corrected, what Henry presents, that's fine. But I'll move on to retail. We've got 3 premises at 1078, 1041, and 1392 on page 5. And then we got our retail comparables on page 8. $10. There's an outlier at $20. I wouldn't consider that. There's $9, $10, $12, a couple at $14. So we're in the $10 range there. So then we have our restaurant comps $15.24 and $16.97 on page 5, and then we have our restaurant comparable leases on page 19. Where they range from 12.5 to the $16 range, with one at $14, one at $15.25, one $16.50. So, like looking at this property as a whole, knowing the transaction, we didn't make any changes.
Okay, thank you. With regard to the restaurant rents, are these standalone restaurants compared to the restaurant at 500 Portage, or are they part of another building? Or
you know what? It's on the pit. I haven't inspected this property.
Okay.
I just know it's on the area, but hopefully inspect this property soon.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's all my questions. Mr. DuPont?
Sent an email as rebuttal
Okay.
showing the ownership. So I assume you got the email now.
I just have to share it with them.
Okay. Let's deal with the rebuttal evidence after your direct evidence.
Sure. Okay.
So you can go ahead on your direct evidence.
Okay. So now I got to find it because I got
Sorry about that.
too many things open.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So you go to the first page. It shows the property has got nice new gray cladding. Clockwise, I got to rotate, and it was before the red brick, like the Safeway used to build, and the big red bricks. So it looked really old. You had poor curb appeal in the past. So now they've done the recladding, and from that should be a better curb appeal. And the second page will show the new cladding that it has. Some of the retails are shown there. The high rise with the Handy Mart, that's the retail. So they have some retail there. And the front side, that was the first photo. I believe there's some other retail there. The restaurants and Teresa's Bridal Salon, etc., are on the main floor. So the retail will be on the main floor. Then the next page shows the aerial photo. aerial photo shows the red brick, so that was the old cladding, and Google still has the old one. So it shows the office in the front and the two towers in the back and the big parkade underneath. Another aerial photo from the back on the next page. So now we skip. We got the aerial photos, page 9 of that, and the map right in front of the University of Winnipeg on Memorial. So it's still, it's not downtown Winnipeg. It's the outskirts of it, and the side streets there aren't good and expensive in that relatively poor housing. So the area is starting to get a bit worse than downtown. The valuation cap rate, we accept the assessor's cap rate 5.55, and the page 15, revenue and expense. Okay, so line 1, you can see the potential rents were $4 million in 2016. Went up to each year, 4,000,003, 4,000,006, 5,000,001, 5,000,483. And look at the discounts. It had only 1,000 discount 2016. It's gone up, and now the discounts are 215,000. And look at the vacancy. It was 343,000, went up to 500,000 for 3 years. Now it's 1,000,001. So they have these renovations that have taken place. They've increased the rents by quite a bit. They've had to increase the discounts, and the market is not paying for what they're asking. It's a huge amount of vacancy. So they're renovating it, and they're not being successful in renting out those renovated units. And I would suggest because it's bachelors, because it's in a poor location, it's in a inferior location, because it has 36% parking. I believe they took probably a wrong property to renovate, spend all that money in because of the location, the fact it's bachelors, lack of parking, etc. So they had a plan. The plan's not working out. So they're renovating and their vacancy is just increasing. So now by 2020, vacancy is 21%. So maybe by January 1st, 2023, they'll have higher rents. They may have higher discounts, higher vacancy. The way the market's reacting to their renovations to date is not good. They're not doing well. Now, line 5B, they show renovation vacancy and models, so that they separate the regular vacancy and the vacancy due to the fact it's under renovation. So the financial statements are good enough to separate the actual vacancy for those that cannot be rented because under renovations, and to those are available for rent. To those available for rent, vacancy is increasing, it's not 21%. So the market is not accepting the rent that they're asking for the condition they has. And you see the bad debt is also increasing, line 6. So in 2020, they got 110,000 bad debt. So the people that move there, they move out and don't pay. A lot of them do. So they have problems with the bad debt also on top of vacancy problem. So they're not attracting the right type of people. I guess part of the rush to rent, the rent to people are not as good. So they have a hard time renting to good tenants. So that's all part of the problem they're having. Laundry was stabilized the actual receipt for 2020. you can see it's down. It actually would be down due to vacancy. Parking is also down. We stabilized that at the 2 years average, 2018 to 2020. So we stabilized a higher parking that actually received in 2020. Miscellaneous income, we stabilized at 3-year average. Insurance, the insurance actually went up. It was 39,000 in 2016. Now it's up to 108. That makes sense because as you renovate, you have to pay more for insurance. The line 17, we stabilized it at 3 years. Advertising, leasing, we stabilized it at 3 years. Hydro, water, gas, utilities. So line 23, it was 553, went up, and it's back down to 550. Probably due to renovations and utilities or vacancy. So we use the actual utilities. I would suggest that these utilities would go up in the future. So if and when Matt wants to come to issue a SUP later on, they'll have to take into consideration the utilities. I would suggest also that the city thinks that this can be renovated as of 2023. There are remedies to issue SUPs for that. And they can and they should if it's warranted. Right now, we should stabilize based on what we know, based on what's there as the reference here, and the potential that they may have better physical conditions and better income. But the way it's operating now, it doesn't look as if the renovations are working. Repair maintenance, we stabilized relatively low, is at 1,049. We'll go through the list later on, but it's quite low. Now that's the repair maintenance. We have major repairs at line 29. And what we allowed is another 1151, so it comes to 2,200 total. Wages and benefits caretaking, we stabilized in 2018. It went up from 287 2018 to 498. Now and the previous years at 343 209. So we stabilized at a lower amount, which works against us and against the owner. We could have went with the higher amount, but we're trying to stabilize to possibly that they have more caretaking expense and wages due to renovations. So we're stabilizing downwards. Taxes, we use actual taxes. So the expense ratio we have is 57% versus the assessment 47%. We have the same cap rate, 5.55, so we come to about 36,900,000, about 37 million versus the assessment about 49 million. And the vacancy above, I don't know if I mentioned, I stabilized at 12% vacancy. The average for the 3 years is 14.3, but we stabilize at 12. And that again could be conservative because the market is not accepting their higher rents. So I believe we're being quite reasonable with the vacancy. So line 16 is a repair maintenance. So we have the two types of repair maintenance. One is the listed in the financial statements as regular, and another one is major repairs. If you look there, they have nothing for appliance replacement or painting, or electrical or plumbing. Those shows up under their major repairs. Contract services would be things they would have under contract, but like you would have elevator contract, etc., or cleaning contract. So we've allowed that at the 5-year average. And that comes to 1,049 on that page. And the next page, 17, that's the one that shows under major repairs. Showing the red on top, those items that could be CapEx. So for new system, they have We disallowed the new system, P-tax system in 2017. Roof, we allow roof repairs, so we allow the 5-year average. There's a whole bunch CapEx they have. I put them all those under other CapEx. I disallowed those other CapEx. So if it's not listed, it's under other CapEx. The cladding and all that would be likely there because I'm not allowing for any building exterior. We'll see down the line that building exterior is zero. Because whatever they have for building exterior, we moved it up to other CapEx. Parking is relatively low, 5,200. That's when we stabilized that. Suites upgrades, including flooring and painting, they have that as all the upgrades. Normally, they have it separately as flooring or appliances. They have it all together in one line. Suite upgrades. We stabilize at 600, which is the max for flooring and painting, which is our max, and we have it far right. We have flooring at 400, and which is wrong because we now have that at 500. That's a full max, the maximum that we have probably for 2020. It's now 500 for flooring, 225 for painting. So we're on the low side. So flooring, we stabilize at 0. Painting, we stabilize at 0 because it's included in suite upgrades. So we maxed that out. The last 3 years, $1 million to $1.4 million, we stabilize at 256. We stabilize at a maximum, so at a normal level. If those being renovated, we put it at a normal level. Counters and cupboards, we do the 5 years. The HVAC, that's very high amounts. 2018, 2019, we disallowed that. We also disallowed the positive in 2020. We stabilized in 2016, 2017. Grounds is relatively low, and we stabilized at 5-year average. Remaining R&M is relatively low. We stabilized that in 5 years. So it comes to 1,055 for these major repairs. There again, we went maximum on these suite upgrades. We excluded all the HVAC and the other CapEx, the cladding and all that. So now we can move to the commercial. We have the summary to start with. We have highlighted the areas of disagreement. So we'll have the individual approach for each of the items separately. So you see the last one, parking, 849, we don't dispute that. For the office, apparently we don't dispute the rents, but we dispute the vacancy because that vacancy problem. Retail and restaurant, we dispute the rents. We don't dispute the vacancy, 6%. The cap rates, apparently we don't dispute those, so I don't have them highlighted here. When we go to each one, we should check to make sure. But it appears we dispute vacancy, office and rents and retail and restaurant. That gives you a summary of our values, and that compares to the actual assessment in orange. So our retail will be slightly less than the assessor, mainly because of the rents. Restaurants, we have 896 value versus the assessor 1,034. Big difference in the rent. It says in red at the bottom, cap rates are undisputed. So the next page is the office. We go from the rent roll and we show all the vacancy. So we show the units that are vacant, and we show the units that are rented, we show the lease stage, et cetera, et cetera. That's the first page. Then we have the second page. This time we did not dispute the non-recoverable expense. Usually we don't, if we don't dispute the cap rate, because these two are related. So the vacancy that we use, 25% under the income, it says similar to the city. If you look at the bottom of the page, it shows the city parameters as well as 2020. No, I don't show 2020. Show it 2023. So the city has 840 in potential rents. We have 822. So we're lower rents, relatively close. A big difference is in the vacancy. The assessor got 11% vacancy. They have more square footage. They have 73,000 square feet. We have 71,000 square feet. The rate per square foot is the same. We have about 1,700 square feet less than the assessor. We use the same shortfall rate and same cap rate as the assessor. We add storage, 4,000, which the assessor doesn't have. There was a large, and show the remarks in the middle of that last page 21. There was a large tenant called Hatch, which had a few units, totaling 28,000 square feet. The lease expired December 31st, 2014. It was 38% of the total rentable area. And they've had vacancy problems since then. So it's been a chronic vacancy since 2015. So it's been 5 years, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 6 years. Sorry, 6 years of chronic vacancy. So the top of the page, 21 towards the top, it shows a vacancy, actual vacancy. If we add up all the vacant units, it comes to 28,350 square feet. So the actual 2020 vacancy on the rent roll is 39%. Previous year, probably don't calculate that. I guess it's difficult to calculate. But for 2017, it was 72%. 2016 was 59. 2015, 46. So it's been a chronic vacancy for 6 years. The next page. It's retail. We're going with the actual rents. And the assessor's got 4439 square feet, 1226. We are at 1146 per square foot for retail. So we're slightly lower. And we use the actual rents in place. Those are the rents. So the Teresa Bridal Salon, 2011, matured 2021. So we don't know what at least after the reference date. Their lease, the headed mark is the one you saw the picture from the rear. They have the entrance from St. Mary's, 1362, and the barbershop inside at 1084. The average rent is 1146. And the two tenants were our gross leases. We do the unrecoverable expenses to get the net rent. So we don't dispute the vacancy or the cap rate. We actually add storage. So our value is 614,000 versus the assessor 625. Mainly to a small dispute in the rents. The next one is a restaurant. there's two tenants. One is vacant. So the Sushi General is paying $14.50. The other one was previously paying $9 and then it vacated. So we used $9 also. So our rent is $13.56 and the assessor has $15.54. Has the same square footage. So we have the lower rents. We don't dispute the vacancy, shortfall, or cap rate. So it's based on the difference in rents. Then the next one's parking. We don't dispute. Then is the appendix. There, we probably should not spend too much time on the appendix, but I'm just scrolling to them. The financial statements start on page 40. And it shows how we which items we had for categorizing. I have to rotate my view. So that page shows the repair maintenance. There's only a few items on that page, 40, and then they have their major repairs on another page. So the under building improvements, page 41, that's where it shows building upgrade, in-suite upgrades, and then the items that we drew up in the red section. Under capex is shown there. Structural upgrade, 480,000. We drew that to the other capex, and the other items with that shows you garage or recreation. We have that, appliances, etc. We have that in our spreadsheet. And then we have the rent rolls for the commercial. Shows the vacants. We redacted some of the tenant names for the residential. We show the total vacancies, etc. So I don't think there's that much to do. That would be my report. I'm open to questions.
Thank you, Mr. Dupont. Mr. Barocas, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have a few questions. So, under line 29 on page 16, major repairs allowed as R&M. You've got 400,000. That comes from page 18, correct? That's when you took the millions they were stabilizing or the millions they were putting in the property, major repair wise, and pulled some of it out and included it into repair maintenance. Is that correct?
Yeah, it shows how I did each individual item. I removed the big HVAC and I removed the other capex I threw on top. I removed that. And the in-suite upgrades are $1 million to $1.5 million. I went down to 256,000 to a maximum 600. And that's an error. Our maximum is actually now 500 to 725. So I'm low on the in-suite upgrades.
Okay. So just looking at the years 18, 19, 20, it looks like there was a ramping up of where the spending was happening in terms of overall spending that was happening. When I look at the line R&M less capex and waste and snow, it looks like they were spending more, going to 1.4 million, 1.7 million, 1.4 million. So my question is this: did the renovations and the suite upgrades end at the end of 2020, or are they continuing to upgrade units as they vacate?
I didn't check on 2021 or questionnaires, but I believe it's a long-term program, 10 years, is likely continuing. So I assume it is continuing. And you stated that they maybe in 2023 they may deserve a supplement because of the renovations, and I'm saying that if it is renovated and they got the rents to match that, then it would be proper to issue a supplement back then in the future.
So then if they were fixing it, if they continue to fix it up to almost the end of the year, which we're at, and we only have the mailer ending 2020, then would you agree that perhaps the potential market gross rents on page 16 would be too low if we're looking at physical January 1, 2023?
No, when it's being renovated, and if we find out that there is a higher income after the reference date, you can issue a supplement. So the way to do it to issue a supplement is not to speculate. So right now, the rents that we have based on 2020 questionnaires indicate they have a major problem with vacancy discounts, bad debts. The market is not accepting the renovations. They're not accepting the rents they're asking for the renovations they're putting out.
Would there be an effect on the utility expenses or perhaps insurance as well if we're looking at the 2023 physical to take into account its assumed improved condition?
The insurance went up, and I stabilized at the higher amount. And if we do a supplement 2023, we should look at the insurance for 2023. It likely will continue going up. The utilities I stabilized at the low end is lower in 2020 than the prior 2 years. It could be in part due to renovation, part due to vacancy, and I'm suggesting they may be higher in the future, but I stabilize at the low end. And 2016, before any renovations, was 553 utilities. So I believe my stabilization of utilities is very reasonable and likely conservative.
Okay. 333 Ward, that's in your cap rate study, correct?
Yeah.
Did that sale go through land titles, or is that a share sale?
I don't know. I did not present the cap rate report this time around.
Okay, but you did submit it though, right? And I did read it over, and we talked about it in countless hearings. So can we just pull that up, please? I believe it's where we're looking would be. I have it up, Appendix D of the apartment cap rate study. And then what we're looking at is page 54 of the PDF, or page 96 of the actual cap rate study.
Can you repeat those pages again?
Yeah, so on the PDF, it's page, on the PDF of 98, it's 54, or the actual number on the printed copy is page 96.
Okay.
So
that's Appendix D?
That would be Appendix D. So it says here that this is a share sale. We can agree on that on row 35.
I'm not disputing that share sales should be allowed or disallowed. So if they're share sales, they don't go to line titles. If we can get confirmation of the actual transaction, we can use that. So we did the work on that one, and we did find out the actual sale price.
Okay, so in a share sale, is there a change in registered owner or no? Or is it just the value of the share? It's given in the value of the assets given in shares it's preferential from a business standpoint.
Quite often they have a bear trustee owner, and they just sell the shares of the bear trustee. So that way it doesn't go to line titles.
So just in regards to the registered owner of 333 Ward, in our system, that didn't change with the share sale, did it? Or do you have any knowledge of that?
That was a rancho property. I was doing it. I had tons of knowledge on that. It's a share sale, showing the line 35 at the bottom. And I had lots of correspondence between the vendor and the purchaser and back and forth. So yeah, I was involved. And I determined it was an arm's length sale. I think we both accepted it. So share sales can be acceptable. If there's no income tax implication, if you buy an existing company with depreciation, etc., would be a tax implication. But when you buy a share sale, usually it's no income tax implication. So it's a true sale, except that it doesn't go through line titles.
Yeah. Okay. And just in regards to my presentation and the $70 million sale I've indicated, do you have any knowledge in regards to the parties that were involved firsthand or anything like that?
I don't have too much knowledge to how the sale occurred, but they paid a lot more than what they had on the books in the previous purchase. Mainly because I had this plan to renovate, so they were buying with the intention to renovate. And so now we see that they've started doing the renovations. They spent a lot of money in the 2 years up to 2020, and the market is not accepting it well. So they had a plan, and the plans are working.
Okay. Have the commercial areas been renovated? Do you have any knowledge of that, or have you done an inspection at all?
No, I don't have any knowledge.
Okay. So I know you mentioned there was, I think there was a commercial vacancy issue.
Yeah.
Is that tied at all? Could that have been tied at all to potential renovations, them being in there, fitting it up, being in the way? I guess this is kind of unfair for me to ask because you haven't inspected.
The residential statements, I forgot to mention it, but they do show the vacancy due to upgrades. They show that separately. They don't show that for the commercial.
Okay. So just my last one for your main brief here. Just on page 18, there's a whole bunch of you pull out a whole bunch of capital expenditures, and I know you didn't include it in the R&M, but do you consider that valuable from a cap rate standpoint in terms of the systems being updated and the suites being refreshed?
I'm not sure what your question means.
I mean that I know, like there's a whole bunch of repairs and renos that don't appear on an R&M standpoint, but do you see that? Would you agree that those capital repairs, given an investor would see that there's less risk because things have been upgraded, but put downward pressure on a capitalization rate?
No, I don't think that affects the cap rate whatsoever. If and when the assessor wants to change the effective year, it would affect the cap rate. Until then, it does not. And to buy the property in April 2021 would be a very risky period in the middle of renovations where the market is not accepting the rents, and they have problems with vacancy, bad debt, discounts. It's higher risk at the time. As of April 1st, 2021, it's higher risk.
Okay. And then just to be clear, just on page 16, the real estate taxes for 2020 are 560,000. That's based on a property assessment of 57 million. Is that correct? Roughly?
2020 assessments, is that what you said it was?
Yeah, basically, yeah. 57,023,000.
You fought me on that at the municipal board that we cannot adjust the taxes for renovations, etc. So the taxes are not something we can adjust.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying that we should adjust them, but I'm just saying that that was what the assessment was based on. Would you agree?
I have to look it up.
Or rather, what the taxes were based on.
The board confirmed it, so they have no value on the decision. So I have to look at the assessment summary. I guess that should show up there. I show, oops, sorry, it's 2019. Hey, City of Aurora brief. That should give me the assessment. So the overall assessment's 57 million. The residential was 44 million. 44,953,000.
Okay. All right. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barocas. Ms. Linklater, do you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Stevens?
I have no questions either. Thank you.
Okay, and neither do I. So I believe, Mr. Dupont, you indicated you had rebuttal evidence.
Oh, yeah, sent by email.
Okay, so we need to just find it.
Open that email, yeah.
Okay. Mr. Lund, where would we find that in our brief, in our document? Still looking. Stephen, do we have it?
Have we lost Stephen's audio again?
Maybe. I can't hear him.
I know, like, you're running off my phone. I just got kicked out of my remote and I'm trying to get back in. right now. So that's why I'm still on camera. He might be having an issue on his end.
Okay.
So
he's coming back in the boardroom now.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
heading towards the control panel.
There is a document here labeled rebuttal 1630.
I believe I did a rebuttal on cap rate, but we don't dispute cap rate. So
Okay.
today is just a rebuttal on the ownership,
Okay,
which has been the same for 2010, 2015, and present.
Okay. so it's rebuttal number 1. Okay.
Able to hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you. Okay, we're just about to deal with Mr. DuPont's rebuttal evidence. So when you're ready, Mr. DuPont.
So one is the 2016 board order. So that it was issued November 8th, 2015, and the sale occurred apparently November 5th or something like that. And it was L REIT Holdings 50 Corporation, which is the same ownership as now for 2023 appeal. And then we had the excerpt of a brief that I found for 2010, and it was L REIT Holdings 50 Corporation also for that appeal. So I'm saying the ownership has not changed. So the article that it has is that L REIT bought from L REIT. It's the same owner.
Okay.
So it appears that sales that they were intending to improve the property dramatically in over 10 years. And so whether that sale occurred at that price or not doesn't really matter. The way it's performing at 2020 does not support the value.
Thank you, Mr. DuPont. Mr. Barocas, do you have questions on the rebuttal?
I'm just trying to get back in, but I did look at it. So if El REIT and Timber Creek are two different entities, it looks like I'm not going to be able to get back in, but I'll just do the rest from my head here. If El REIT and Timber Creek assets are two different companies, and the sale was transacted as a share sale, would the registered owner changed if it didn't go through land titles?
It didn't go through land titles. So Timber Creek could have ownership in the L REIT 50 holdings. And so it would appear that whatever the article referred to would be a share sale.
Okay. That's it for the questions on rebuttal. I also submitted rebuttal to the rebuttal.
Okay, so we'll see if our panel members have questions and then we will get to your rebuttal. Ms. Linklater?
I have no questions regarding Mr.
Okay.
DuPont's rebuttal. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Stevens?
I have no questions either.
Okay, now Mr. Barocas.
Okay, we're almost done, I promise.
We are close. Yeah.
I promise you guys. Okay, so I sent over some rebuttal to the rebuttal. Basically,
Okay.
if you can please open that up.
Okay, just give us a minute. We have to find it. Okay.
This is the property assessment notice.
Yes, this is property assessment notice for 333 Ward. 333 Ward, we've established as a share sale that's used in the Altus cap rate study. So
Okay.
I took the 2018 notice that got mailed to the registered owner. I also took the 2014 notice. The share sale happened in January 2016. It's the same registered owner. So that's what, based on the news article, saying went from Timber Creek to Ellery, I think is the story here. I know his rebuttal said it's the same owner, but share sales, the registered owner doesn't change. So sold for 70 million as far as we can tell. They went to the paper and talked about it. That's my rebuttal to the rebuttal.
Okay, Mr. DuPont, do you have questions on the rebuttal to the rebuttal?
No questions.
Okay, Ms. Linklater,
I also have no questions. Thank you.
Ms. Stevens.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, and neither do I. So, Mr. Barocas, is there a desire for summation?
Yes, please. I'll make this quick. I know it's 5 o'clock already. So let me pull my brief up. Sorry, I've been kicked out. I think we're all ready for this one to end, eh? So they purchased the property for $70 million. From what we can tell, a share sale. They went to the paper and talked about it. It's been at the board before, it confirmed at $57 million last September. But this is the main thing that I want to key on it. Aside from the sale price, the property's been renovated. We know that they're renovating beyond the end of 2020. Our physical reference date is 2023. There is 2 years of renovations in there that we haven't been able to take an account for yet. It's just a function of the framework we work under. And, we have information that they bought it for $70 million. So based on past decisions, based on all that information, I think it should be confirmed. It's going to end up at the municipal board. I know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barocas. Mr. DuPont?
If there's any post renovation, it should be captured in a supplement. So it's not up to this board to speculate on what the rents will be, what the vacancy will be, etc. in the future, what the condition will be in the future. The board cannot speculate on that. So that is to be captured in a supplement if and when the assessor decides to actually increase in value. So we should not be worried about that or even taking that into consideration because we cannot speculate what will happen in the future. We know it's ongoing, but we do know there have problems now. If they were doing these renovations and we had only 2% vacancy and they were renting them as fast as you can renovate it, and say, oh, okay, maybe we should drop our appeal. But that's not what's happening. They have problems. The market is not agreeing with the owners' renovations. They're not agreeing with the rents. They even rented to people that cannot afford it, give $110,000 in bad debt. They're not getting accepted in the marketplace. Part of it is that problems they have, permanent problems to this property. It's 72 bachelors. And the parking is only 36% parking for residential. So that it's a problem they have. I've had some other problems, some other properties where the owner bought with a lot of small one bedroom, and they told me later on, it's not a good thing to try to renovate a property with small one bedrooms. Market won't pay for it. So here they have a lot of bachelors and a whole bunch of one bedrooms, 296 one bedroom, 428, very few two bedrooms. A very poor suite mix, poor location, poor parking, poor reception of their renovations by the marketplace. You should go based on the financial statements. We just don't take a property and take an ad from the free press, and that's our only report. The board doesn't do that. We don't do that. I'm not going to do that. The municipal board for 2020 is actually going to argue up and down. They have to look at the financial statements. They have to look at the market, how the market is looking at those renovations, how the market is accepting it. We have to value it based on the normal way. We can't value it on sale price. People had grand plans that it's not working out. So we should go with what the financial statements indicate, and any post renovations that do add to value, If that happens, I'm not confident it will be captured by supplement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dupont. Okay, I think that we've now heard all items on the docket today, and this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much, Mr. Dupont and Mr. Barocas.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.